More laughter, mixed with a soft blush warming my cheeks. My mind flickered back to the warmth of Julian's body against mine, igniting an intense longing as I felt the steady rhythm of his presence behind me. But the banter was a distraction from the growing uncertainties. "Focus, everyone," Julian's voice pierced through the joy, snapping us to attention. I watched as he became authoritative, his leadership emerging as a blend of charisma and desperation. "We need a plan. If we can't get help from the next station on our route, we may have to investigate the land ourselves. It could be risky, but—" "It's dangerous out there," Mira interrupted, crossing her arms tightly. "We can't just march into uncharted territory. That's how accidents happen." Julian's eyes flashed, the tension emanating from him palpable. "Are we really going to waste away in indecision? Are you really suggesting we risk our lives for food when there are consequences you may not be prepared to face?" I countered, taking a step closer to him, the heat between us sparking as the argument drew in layers of meaning I couldn't ignore anymore. He turned toward me, and for a moment the world faded. "You think I'd plunge us into danger without considering the consequences?" His voice lowered, and something in him shifted, a crack of vulnerability revealing itself amidst the bravado. "All this time, I've fought against something far greater than the cold. I won't stand idle and watch us perish, Zara." "Fighting against something or someone," I challenged, and the tension simmered in the air. There existed a question we both hesitated to voice. Other crew members continued their discussions in the background, oblivious to our undercurrent, while the snow began to fall, thicker, harsher, challenging our very existence. "I'm not playing games with either of those options, and you shouldn't either." "I want to trust you," I murmured, the softness of my voice an imploring whisper that perhaps he would allow me in, beyond this intricate chess game of survival and strategy. Julian stepped closer, the warmth radiating off of him undeniable. "And what if I told you that what I aim to uncover is more than you realize? That everything I've been doing has always been about your safety?" Before I could formulate a response, the power of his presence drew me into him, the space between us shrinking, our breaths entangled in an electric current that spanned the chaos around us. I could feel my heart racing, my thoughts clouded under his gaze. "Zara," he leaned in, and there was a flicker of something fierce, an urgency I could no longer suppress. And then chaos erupted across the room. A loud crash as one of the crew dropped a crate, sending cans clattering across the floor, scattering food supplies everywhere. A rush of laughter broke the intensity, causing us to pull away. "Sorry, my bad. Don't add me to the cannibal list, please." Jonas, the young intern, half laughed and half cried, knee-deep in the avalanche of our circumstances. As he scrambled to gather the mess, the tension shifted yet again, an ever-present dance of drama and life aboard this ship. "Building alliances or scrambling like rats? You decide," Julian muttered, humor lacing his voice as the moment dissolved into light-hearted chaos. I let out a breath I hadn't known I'd been holding, laughing too, even amidst the storm of uncertainty. A part of me soared, reveling in the absurdity of this completely unexpected experience. As we shared a lingering glance that spoke volumes amidst the lingering banter around us, something shifted within me, a growing certainty nestled between the lines of our interplay. There was fear here, yes, but alongside it bloomed the inescapable pull of desire, the unmistakable yearning that tethered us to one another with undeniable force. Later that night, the dark engulfed the ship, broken only by the dim lights in the corridor as we moved back toward our quarters. "Zara, come here," Julian beckoned softly, a siren call that thrummed against my ears. His voice mingled with echoes of laughter still dancing through the air. It was simultaneously an invitation and a question, a resolve burning behind those smoky eyes. I stepped into his quarters, the cabin a hidden respite from the chaos, the heavy door closing behind me with a definitive thud. The world outside faded as I turned to face him, and the intimacy of that moment unfurled between us, lush and rich. "Don't bring me in here just to discuss ration plans," I said lightly, my heart drumming a wild rhythm that mirrored the impending storm raging outside. He stepped toward me, his presence commanding yet comforting, a potent cocktail of chemistry mingling with uncertainty. "What if I want to show you something else? Let's say an adventure of sorts." "Julian, are we seriously talking about adventure now? Supplies are getting low, and—" "Forget supplies for a moment, Zara." He moved in closer, the charge in the air palpable, and my reluctance crumbled in the heat of his presence. "Let me show you what true hunger looks like." A shiver coursed through me as he pressed forward, capturing my lips with a fervor that matched the urgency of the storm outside. This was not a mere kiss. It was an unveiling, a revealing of every desire we had danced around until this moment. The taste of him was intoxicating, warmth and flavor melding with our breath as we lost ourselves to the silencing power of wanton temptation. My fingers tangled in his thick, dark hair as he pulled me closer, our bodies colliding with an urgency that left us breathless. As the storm raged outside, we succumbed to the tempest only we could create against the elements, enveloped in a haze of desire and passion. This is how alliances are formed, I thought, each heartbeat a testament to the complexities of our situation. Vulnerable, yet fiercely alive, in the embrace of an even greater pursuit, one another. Eventually, the storm outside would settle. But what needed to be resolved here, now, in this hidden sanctum of desire, was something we would have to navigate together. "Together," I whispered against his lips, breathless, weaving our fates within this frozen world, a promise echoing in the setting. And just like that, the fight for survival transformed, ignited into something more profound among the shadows cast by ice and ambition. Chapter 40, A Choice to Make. The wind howled outside, rattling the glass of my cabin as I considered the weight of my choices. I could almost feel the icebergs shifting beneath the ship, their formidable presence a stark reminder of how fragile our hold on both nature and ambition really is. I stared out into the blizzard, the whirling snowflakes glimmering like tiny diamonds against a backdrop of unforgiving gray. A knock rattled me from my reverie, and I swung the door open to find Julian, standing there with a determined grin that sent a thrill through my core. He looked spectacular, as always, even amidst the chaos. His fleece-lined jacket hugged his shoulders, and the snow dusting his dark curls only added to his allure. "Ready to brave the elements of academia?" he quipped, his emerald eyes sparkling with mischief. "What do you mean?" I asked, arching an eyebrow as I stepped back to let him in. The warmth of our shared space enveloped me, a stark contrast to the frigid winds outside. "I'm not going out in this weather for a social call. If it's research you need, I'm game, but—" "No research, not yet," he interrupted, leaning casually against the doorframe. "I have something far more enticing in mind." I folded my arms, still wary, but with a pulse quickening from his presence. "You've been talking about the mid-expedition supplier meeting we'll have later. You mentioned increases in per capita rations, and I—" His laughter filled the small room, light and teasing. "You know me too well. But Zara, this is about the actual supplies. Did you hear about the Aurora crew?" I shook my head. "What about them?" "They're facing a significant delay in their scheduled replacement by air. If we want to make it through the month without depleting our crucial stocks, I need you to help me convince our captain to divert." "Divert?" I echoed, fully absorbing the implications. "You mean to take a dangerous journey through those stormy waters." Julian took a step closer, his presence almost commanding. "I can only trust you to get the crew prepared. We leave at dawn. Tonight, while we're still in port, we could lock down supplies and negotiate." "Tonight?" A flurry of excitement and dread coursed through me. "You're asking me to gamble everything I've worked for?" "Or everything we can build," he countered, his voice dropping to a rich timbre that wrapped around me like an embrace. "Look, I've seen your work. You're not just good, you're extraordinary. This is your moment to shine, Zara. I felt a spark igniting deep within me, my unpredictable passion wrestling with my careful ambition. I'm willing to take risks, but I won't put myself in danger just to bolster, what, your reputation? Oh, darling, he murmured, drawing even closer. It's not just my reputation, it's ours. It's about survival, legacy, and the discovery that's within reach. Think about the research we could achieve together. His voice hung in the air with an enticing promise, drawing me in ever so slowly. It wasn't just the allure of danger or adventure. It was the tantalizing thought of collaboration, an invitation that excited and frightened me in equal measure. Just then, the door creaked open behind Julian, revealing Maya, our feisty expedition medic, who carried a basket of freshly baked pastries from the kitchen. "What are you two scheming about in here?" she asked, eyes sparkling mischievously. Julian straightened immediately, his countenance shifting slightly. "Zara's contemplating a thrilling excursion." "Thrilling?" Maya grinned, her enthusiastic presence cutting through the electric tension between Julian and me. "You mean we're going to do something reckless, aren't we?" "Something like that," I replied, trying to mask my inner turmoil. "Only if I can convince the crew first." Maya urged me toward the warmth of the small table in the corner, where the pastries sat beckoning. "Only if you can control the chaos that's about to ensue, Zara." "You know I thrive in chaos," I shot back, a grin creeping onto my face. I could almost hear the whispers in my mind, the fears lying dormant, yet ready to strike. "Exactly," Julian chimed in, leaning against the door once more. "As long as chaos has its beautiful moments." Maya shot him a look, her brow raised. "Beautiful moments are often found amidst the wreckage, Julian." "And wreckage means adventure," I added, considering how much I wanted this wild ride into the unknown. An opportunity to prove myself. With a sly smirk, Maya pulled a pastry from the basket. "Have you two thought about one crucial detail? What if you fail? What will the fallout be?" "Fallout?" Julian's voice held an edge, and for a heartbeat the room turned electric around us. Maya had just touched on something infinitely larger than the supplies. "I suppose we pick up the pieces," I muttered, a dose of sarcasm coating my words. "With some pastries on the side, I'm sure." Julian stepped forward, his intensity palpable. "We can face anything together, including failure." "Except maybe pastry-eating contests," Maya chimed in, her laughter lightening the weight of our conversation. I joined her, though the murky sincerity lurked beneath the surface of our laughter. I leaned into Julian, letting his warmth sink into my side, feeling my heartbeat amped up by his proximity. "Shouldn't we at least wait for the winds to die down before making a move? We can build a case." "Time isn't on our side. We seize the day now," Julian insisted, the fierce determination in his gaze a fire igniting the dim corners of my mind. "The world is as unpredictable as this storm. We either ride the wave or sit idly by as opportunities drown." Maya clasped her hands together, excitement lighting her features. "I'm all for a good storm, but if peril lurking in the ice caves is involved, count me out. I like to live to tell the tale." "Too bad. This tale needs an actress," Julian teased. His fingers brushed lightly against my arm, sending a shiver that ricocheted through my bones. "What about a leading lady?" I challenged, glancing up at him, and to my surprise, the tension between us simmered with an intensity that felt charged, unspoken yet electrifying. "Zara, you're already a leading lady," he replied, voice low and filled with promise. The door swung open again, this time bringing in an avalanche of laughter. A slew of my fellow researchers tumbled in, carrying an assortment of instruments and snacks. They reveled in their chaotic entrance, finding spots around the room and changing the dynamic instantly. "It's a party," Sam shouted, plopping down on one of the beanbags. "Perfect time to discuss our next adventure, huh, Zara?" "Something like that," I replied, feigning nonchalance. Inside, I was a tempest ready to erupt, caught in a collision between Julian's ambitions and my own. "Let's pitch an expedition," Sam suggested brightly, while grabbing a pastry. "I'm up for whatever trouble we can stir up." As the banter climbed around me, I caught Julian's eye again. His gaze held something intense and profound. I sighed. My heart danced to its own rhythm as the chaos erupted around us, yet every nod and laugh from my friends only intensified the decision hanging heavy in the air. "All right, I need a drink," I said, raising my voice above the laughter. "Then I'll dive headfirst into this grand plan of yours, Julian." He nodded, lips curling into a slow smile. "And then we'll conquer this storm together." Later, I found myself leaning against the table, watching everyone interact, their laughter rich and full. It was undeniably beautiful. The moment felt shared, yet somehow Julian and I were in our own world amid the cacophony. "Seriously," Maya nudged me, her tone becoming conspiratorial. "Are you really going to flirt with disaster? Is this what they call pioneering?" "Flirting?" I smirked at her with mock innocence. "You mean to define my choices by a mere confection of ambition?" "Center stage means more than just research," she replied pointedly. "Take the risk, Zara. Jump." And so I would jump, perhaps not just for the thrill, but to discover what lay beneath the surface, where uncharted connections lingered. As my heart pumped adrenaline, I knew that deeper, beyond every laugh and touch, beyond the sweet pastries devoured and chaos witnessed, rested the beating core of my true ambitions. And through it all, I was about to make a choice, an invigorating swirl of stormy adventure and reckless passion. Because daring would lead me somewhere dark and wonderfully bright, into the very depths of what it means to truly desire. "Tomorrow let's make history," I declared, a new fire igniting in my belly. "Tomorrow," Julian echoed, his voice low and inviting. "Together." And despite the raging storm, I could taste the sweetness of our impending adventure. Chapter 41. The Edge of Desire. The heavy scent of roasted coffee beans wafted through the ship's narrow galley, mingling with the crisp, saline tang of the Antarctic air, seeping in through the portholes. I stood at the small stainless steel counter, waiting for the pot to brew, my heartbeat echoing in the silence like an impatient drum. A part of me hoped Julian would wander in, his ever-intriguing presence slicing through the mundane. The other part of me stirred uneasily, holding tightly onto my purpose, the reason I came aboard this expedition, to unveil ancient mysteries buried under glacial layers, not to unravel my own heart. The coffee maker burbled gently, a familiar sound that should have soothed, but instead left me restless. My fingers brushed against the cool surface of the countertop, and I inhaled deeply, the aroma anchoring me. I had just finished reviewing the latest hypothesis on the migratory patterns of ancient peoples, data I meticulously gathered, convinced it would secure my standing in this field. I almost missed that satisfying thrum of ambition when the soft creak of the door interrupted my thoughts. "Good morning, Professor Dunbar." Julian's voice flowed into the room like honeyed wine, rich and intoxicating. His dark eyes flicked to mine, a playful challenge dancing within them. "Good morning, Mr. Black," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. "I didn't realize you were up this early. Planning to sabotage another researcher's career before breakfast?" A brief silence enveloped us, the air heavy with tension and unspoken words. He stepped closer, his presence engulfing the modest space, and the heat surged between us, a lingering thrill that had begun consuming my thoughts. "You wound me, Zara," he retorted, a teasing smile ghosting his lips. "How can this charming gentleman be cast as a villain?" I narrowed my eyes, daring him to push me. "Charming? That's not how I'd describe someone who has maneuvered their way through academia with underhanded tactics." "Underhanded or strategic?" He leaned against the counter, arms folded, the fabric of his sweater taut against his biceps. "And yet, you're here. Perhaps you can enlighten me on what it means to be truly ambitious without crossing certain lines." The moment stretched, a taut wire teetering between our unyielding stances. My pulse quickened, and I remembered the tales of explorers pitted against the vast eternal ice, where only those willing to embrace vulnerability ever found purpose. Ambition doesn't necessitate deceit, Julian. That's naive. His voice dropped, the proximity brewing something potent between us. You think the world plays fair? My heart lurched. I wanted to refute him, to counter his instinctual impulse to manipulate, but the simmering complicity of our banter drew me in. Is that what you tell yourself? That it's survival of the fittest? He stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. What if I told you that my methods are motivated by a greater purpose? A flicker of curiosity ignited within me, mingling with my indignation. Greater purpose? Like what, devoting yourself to a cause you deem worthy, while trampling over everyone else? I'm not trampling, he insisted, genuine frustration lacing his words. I'm paving the way for those who matter. Or for yourself, I shot back. Don't think I'll be swayed by some grand excuse. As the coffee maker gurgled its final triumph, my focus shifted toward it, breaking the fraught air with the mundane task of pouring coffee into my mug. Tastefully steaming, the caffeine clutched my attention, yet I could feel his eyes on me, a heated presence that grasped my insides. When I turned back, he was still watching, and the space between us was thick with unrefined energy. "You're so confident," he said, a raised eyebrow hinting at amusement. "But I wonder if you're only pretending to be unaffected by what bubbles beneath the surface." "Do you enjoy pretending, Julian?" I asked, antagonizingly curious. "You're the one who's always hidden things. Your motives, your childhood. What haunts you?" He stepped closer again, and I fought to keep my breath steady. Maybe it's time I revealed my inner truths to you, but it could cost more than you're willing to pay. Like your conscience? I smiled, daring him. "What price are we talking about? Can you handle it?" A laugh burst out of me, unexpected and liberating. I immediately regretted it. "Honestly, Julian, you're full of dramatic mystery. I can barely handle you with your layer of intrigue waiting to be peeled back." "Isn't that what excites you? The layers? The labyrinths?" His tone was shifting now, tight with a mix of challenge and something softer. "You live for the intricate." I rolled my eyes, both enamored and exasperated with him. "And you think I should unravel your secrets like they're some kind of academic puzzle? If you're willing to poke around, maybe you'll find more than you bargained for." A pause hung in the air, anticipation gathering as the ship rocked slightly against the waves. The tension flipped and thrashed, ready to explode. "Tell me, but no, it may not matter to me," I said, clasping my mug tighter. "Everything matters." He inched nearer, too close, but not close enough. "Including you." I could feel my resolve wavering as the drum in my chest quickened, oscillating between fear of vulnerability and raw attraction. "You know," I directed my focus outside, attempting to fight against the magnetic pull of his gaze. "You could just say, I'm digging through all your research papers to find your secrets, but instead here we are, debating bravado. Perhaps we're both experts at misdirection. Can't we agree that it's more interesting this way?" A smile curled at the edges of his mouth, softening that steely resolve. "Interesting or maddening?" I quipped back, my heart fluttering unsurely. "We're stuck on this iceberg of chaos after all. Chaos uses ice to conceal the truth." Very clever. The cafe space filled with a kind of lightness, but as his gaze rooted into mine, the energy shifted again. "What if I told you that I could easily disappear? This ship may feel like home now, but it's just an illusion. Then allow me to be your reason to stay." Just then the ship pitched abruptly, tilting us closer, our bodies colliding. In the split second before we could recover, a blow of laughter erupted in the entryway, shrill and unbidden, followed by the arrival of Elena and Marcus, their presence destroying the moment's wait. "Honestly, Zara, working on that research again?" Elena laughed, holding 2 mugs full of coffee. "We may be surrounded by crashing glaciers, but I see you're still focused on your icebergs." "Jealous?" I shot back, attempting to regain composure. "Of what?" Marcus threw his arms up in jest. "Of having an adventurous morning? I mean, look who you were just lost in conversation with. Should we applaud the literal chemistry happening here?" "Shush now." I attempted to humiliate them, but my cheeks were undoubtedly warm, and I could see Julian fighting off a grin. Your chemistry seems to need safety glasses, Elena laughed out, leaning toward Julian and giving an exaggerated wink. In retaliation, Julian took a step back, folding his arms again, but not before catching my eye with a lingering intensity. All this talk about chemistry, yet it seems none of you appreciate the finer aspects of research. Isn't that what raw scientific pursuit really looks like? Spoken like a true academic. Elena rolled her eyes. Trust me, if you two keep this up, it will only enhance the gossip citation in the ship's next newsletter. Laughter echoed through the galley, distracting me momentarily. I was nearly grateful for it, or so my ego wanted to suggest. But the ice had shifted, and the tension that had swirled through the air melted with every exchanged jest. I couldn't shake the way Julian's lingering look had taxed my resolve. It wrapped around me like smoke in a still room. Here I thought we were having a serious intellectual moment. I tried to deflect my awareness back to the prankish banter, but my heart was racing despite myself. Julian seemed to hesitate, then leaned in, lowering his voice, as though confiding in only me. The real question is, are you serious, Zara? Because I'm certainly interested in a scholarly partnership that extends beyond the fieldwork. That flutter in my chest returned. Partnership? How very ambitious of you. Ambition has many faces, doesn't it? He stepped back one final time, allowing for a breath of space, returning an air of nonchalance. I surrendered against the simmering momentum of words exchanged, thinking this gauntlet of feelings would only continue to escalate. Would we really collide, break apart, or have I just opened the floodgates to an inevitable implosion? Join us for breakfast, Zara. I can already feel the difference in your mood compared to last week, Elena insisted, laughter still sparkling in her eyes. Or do you prefer to stew in unresolved tension? Fine, I'll join, for science, I retorted, smirking wild toward Julian. But I think we should keep our explorations of the heart strictly analytical. We could even draw a chart for the romantic entanglements on this ship, who goes where, and what happens under the Antarctic layering. Sounds riveting, Julian replied dryly, amusement flickering in his eyes. You never change, do you? Alas, I couldn't shake the sensation that this was merely the crest of something far deeper waiting to spill over. A journey suspended on cold ice, yet insatiably alive beneath the surface. As we made our way through the galley, I caught Julian's eye, and for a fleeting moment there was no laughter, only that dark, intoxicating promise, whispering of secrets still yet unveiled. Sometimes it felt like we were caught on the edge of a spectacular precipice, hanging, spiraling, desiring, and I couldn't help but wonder how thrilling it would be to leap. Chapter 42, Chasing Storm Clouds. The Antarctic winds howled like a restless symphony, a chorus of ghostly whispers ricocheting off the ship's steel body. Inside, amidst the hum of machinery and the occasional clink of glass, I stood in the storage room, my fingertips grazing the labels of supplies: powdered milk, cans of beans, filtered water. Each container felt like a lifeline, a testament to the expedition's precarious balance between survival and deprivation. On the verge of chaos, all of us teetered between pragmatism and the heavy allure of our desires. To the left, Julian leaned against a shelf lined with gear. Our eyes met, his expression inscrutable, yet alive with electricity. I noticed the way the dim fluorescent light caught the low angle of his jaw, revealing the tension I could feel simmering just beneath the surface. Picking your favorite flavors? He teased, pushing off from the metal shelf and striding toward me, the warmth of his body radiating like a half-forgotten summer. Canned peaches or baked beans? It's a high-stakes choice, I shot back, rolling my eyes, but unable to mask the smile tugging at my lips. It felt absurdly mundane in the midst of icy chaos, yet these moments kept me grounded. Peaches are overrated. You need something heartier for this weather. Maybe we can whip something up later. I could join you in the kitchen. His voice dropped, each word laced with unspoken promise, a melody that sent ripples of anticipation racing through me. I feigned annoyance, adjusting my heavy winter gear, but I felt vulnerable under his gaze, as if he could peel away the layers I meticulously wrapped around my ambition. "Is this one of your schemes to get me to make you dinner?" "Very sneaky, Julian." "Scheming?" He leaned closer, closing the distance further than I expected. "You give me too much credit. I just want to be around when you mix those annoying canned goods together." "Annoying canned goods? That's creative," I retorted, trying to quell the heat rising within me, warmth battling against the frost-tipped air swirling just beyond the metal walls. Moving to grab a can of tomatoes, I felt his presence linger, electric and warm, hovering just out of reach. "You know, there's something ridiculous about the two of us sifting through supplies while the world outside turns apocalyptic." He chuckled softly, the sound drawing me in like a siren's call. "Absolutely ridiculous. But here we are, chasing storm clouds and chasing each other." Before I could respond, a sudden jolt rocked the ship, throwing us both against the shelving. I caught a glimpse of the shock that rippled through Julian's eyes, panic melding with instinct, his protective side surfacing in an instant. "Everyone okay?" shouted Lena, our adventure manager, her voice cutting through the tension as she clambered down the hall toward us. "Just a little turbulence," Julian called back, his gaze narrowing, lost in thought as he surveyed the distant windows lined with shimmering frost, foreboding clouds descending quickly upon us. Muffled voices encircled us, the crew scurrying to ensure supplies were secure, excitement morphing into a sense of impending adventure. "Let's go check the deck. The storm might be worse than it seems," I said, the excitement eclipsing my initial irritation. Beneath the surface, an unspoken thrill pulled at me, a desire to test the limits of my own resolve, to immerse myself in this perfect storm of chaos. Julian nodded, a glint in his eyes beckoning to me. "Fine, but only if you promise not to slip in the snow. Wouldn't want to ruin that captivating gaze of yours." "Charming as always," I replied, lifting my chin defiantly, aware of the magnetic pull between us. There was no denying that the teasing flirtation melted the frost around both our hearts, not that I would ever admit it out loud. We made our way up the narrow stairwell, the air thick with a concoction of anticipation and the electric pulse of the brewing storm. The door to the deck swung open, and an icy blast greeted us, swirling with tiny snowflakes that glimmered like diamonds in the gray light. And there it was, the horizon awash in shades of slate and silver, clouds roiling like great waves ready to crash. The ship swayed dangerously underfoot, but to me, it felt exhilarating. Watching the storm roll in, Julian leaned close, his words a low rumble against the howling wind. "Beautiful, isn't it? It's as if the entire world is in revolt." "Or rejuvenation," I countered, unable to look away from the chaotic beauty. "This icy realm creates a constant state of transformation, just like us." "Not entirely unlike us," he murmured, the warmth of his breath ghosting against my ear. It sent shivers down my spine, igniting a fire that felt both rich and dangerous. In that electrifying moment, everything else faded, the ship, the storm, the rest of the crew. It was just me and Julian. A single heartbeat separated us. I inhaled, and he exhaled. "You think you're ready for adventure, Zara?" His demeanor shifted, the playful charm replaced by something deeper, an intensity that captivated me. "Adventure? You mean this mundane task we're tackling?" I teased, but my heart racing betrayed my bravado. "I mean this." He moved closer, tension swirling like the storm clouds above us. His eyes burned with that familiar heat. Whatever barrier I had erected started to crumble as he watched me with a mix of awe and tension, something unspoken flickering between us. Light laughter from Lena and a couple of crew members interrupted the moment. "You two are going to get blown away out here," she called, her voice buoyant amidst the menacing winds. "Or worse, frozen in place." "Oh, I wish they'd stop hovering," I muttered, breaking the spell. Julian chuckled, whispering, "We could give them a show." The mischief lacing his tone sent warmth pooling through me once again, like a flame beckoning to burn brighter. Well, if you want to savor the show, we'll need to gather supplies first. Survival can be the ultimate adventure. I spun smoothly away and marched back to the safety of our storage room, determined to take charge. But behind me, I could feel his laughter burrowing into my skin, seductive and wild. A few minutes later, we were inside again, the door shutting out the howl of the storm. The light in the storage room was dim, making everything feel intimate amid a backdrop of chaos muffled just outside. Are you always this inspirational when gathering supplies? Julian leaned against the door, arms crossed, his presence a potent shield. Just find me the last 8 cans, will you? I quipped. But as I swept through the rows of shelves, I could feel his gaze tracking me like a tangible force. Every lingering second was another thread tightened around us, my heart racing like a rapid drum. He nodded, slipping into the rows beside me, and suddenly I was caught between the spices and fruits, each container symbolic of the bubbling tension I could no longer ignore. Got your favorites here? He was flirting with me again, his voice deep and rich, a note of sincere inquiry shadowing the humor. Julian, I said, turning to face him, the air thick with impropriety. Stop distracting me. Am I distracting? He challenged, stepping closer, the scent of cedar and something distinctly him enveloping me. If you're intentionally sabotaging my concentration, then yes, I returned, the corners of my mouth threatening to give way. Maybe I prefer to distract you. He took a step closer, his breath warm against my cheeks. Maybe letting you know how I feel is worth a risk or two. The world narrowed. Worth it? I echoed, heart pounding as I searched his dark eyes, lit by mischief and something far deeper. His hand brushed against mine as he reached for a can, merely a spark at first, but the sensation ignited my skin as if fire met ice in that small space. You don't think I risked everything for a mere distraction, do you? His breath mingled with the cold air, and my resolve splintered. This isn't about that, Julian. Isn't it? Let's be practical, shall we? I wished I sounded entirely convincing, but Julian stood there like a tempest, the kind of chaos that promised both danger and exhilaration. My head spun, caught in the storm of it all. Practicality is overrated, he whispered, drawing ever nearer. What if I told you that I want to get lost in this chaos with you for once? With a daring lift of my chin, I challenged back. You do realize the world outside is in turmoil, right? Yes, he said, brushing his knuckles against my arm, sending sparks radiating across every nerve. But have you considered the chaos we can create together? The breath hitched in my throat as he leaned in, our fears and uncertainties dancing like the wind outside, endlessly crashing. Zara, he murmured, heat pooling between us. Let's not pretend this isn't happening. His lips brushed against mine, a soft fusion of heat that drew an unexpected gasp from my throat. This time I leaned into it, tasting the promise of what was undeniably ours. It felt like a reminder of everything I had locked away, passion, vulnerability, and a glimpse of the future I dared to reach for. As we melded into each other, the temperature dropped around us, but our bodies surged with warmth, the world warping and bending around our shared pulse. Julian's hands cradled the sides of my face, and everything blurred into an exquisite haze. I was no longer just me, drifting through ambitions. I was a piece of something greater, wholly entwined with him. Every kiss curled into a question and an answer, a promise as the storm raged outside and chaos enveloped the ship. Outside, the world howled, but in here, we found a sanctuary of sparks, daring to chase the wild. We kissed like we had found a piece of truth in the midst of tumult, intensely, passionately, with the weight of wanting and the giddiness of relief. Let's embrace the storm, I whispered between kisses, knowing that this intimacy shattered the safety of our separate lives. Let's, Julian breathed, as I tangled my fingers in his hair, lost in the thrill of our reckless union. And for the first time, amid the swirling storm clouds, I allowed myself to chase not just ambition, but love, knowing that in this chaos, we were both powerful, dynamic, and unapologetically alive. Chapter 43: Embracing Vulnerability. The icy wind howled against the glass panes of the luxury expedition ship, echoing the turmoil rippling through me. I leaned against the railing of the observation deck, the frigid air biting into my cheeks, awakening the senses I had dulled with ambition. Below, icebergs loomed like sentinels, stark against a twilight sky that swirled with low, bruised clouds. Each snowy peak and glacial crevice felt like a whisper of warning, reminding me that beauty, like trust, could just as easily shatter. Inside my chest, an unsettling combination of yearning and dread twisted tight. I had never allowed myself the luxury of vulnerability, and yet ever since Julian Black had stepped into my life, it was like he had taken my defenses and carved them into sculptures of despair and desperation. Just last week, I had caught him casting glances at the lab notes of my competitors, his cunning smile layered with secrets. Each smile felt like a promise, tremulous with weight, and I was torn. Was he my ally or my opponent? What's going on up here? My best friend Layla appeared at my side, her auburn curls bouncing with purpose, oblivious to the storm roiling within me. "Do I look like I know?" I retorted, the edge in my tone sharper than I intended. I blinked, forcing a smile that I hoped would mask my turmoil. Layla's gaze sharpened, her instinct already tuned to my dissonance. "You still on about that ridiculous treasure hunt of yours?" "It's not ridiculous. There's potentially world-altering research at stake." My voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, even as I knew it was futile. Layla crossed her arms, shadowing my resolve as the ship creaked beneath us. "And so is your heart, Zara. You can't keep pretending you're okay with him." "Who?" I feigned ignorance, knowing exactly who she meant, and yet I could feel the heat rise in my cheeks. "Julian, of course. Let's just chat about how he's got you in knots." "What I feel for him isn't that simple." I turned the other way, desperate to channel my frustration into the wild Antarctic scenery. "He's complicated. I'm complicated." Just then, Julian emerged onto the deck like a winter storm, striking and improbable. His fiery eyes locked onto mine, and the world blurred. He wore subdued colors that matched the ice, but managed to maximize the allure of his strength. "I thought I'd find you here. Trying to escape your many secrets?" I shot back, angling my body to block him from my vision, but failing spectacularly as I took in the way he filled the space around him. His laugh was low, rumbling against the backdrop of the wind. "You keep saying that, but you still don't want to let me in." The challenge in his gaze danced along the boundary between arrogance and sincerity, enticing and frustrating all at once. "Maybe I don't trust you," I fired back, the words spilling from my mouth with a physical weight. "Trust is earned, Zara. And I know we're earning it together, slowly, like carving through ice." Layla shifted uncomfortably, tossing her hands in the air in a dramatic attempt to diffuse the tension that danced between us. "Okay, how about we think of a different way to carve this ice than with knives? Like cocktails. I hear the bar might have some new concoctions." "I'm not ready for cocktails," I replied sharply, wanting nothing more than to shake the cocktail shaker of my heart and bring forth all the muddled emotions swirling inside me. Layla looked between us, her eyes narrowing perceptibly. "You both need to sort this out, now." And just like that, I held my breath as Julian stepped closer, his solid presence a contrast to the chilly bite of the air. "What is this really about, Zara?" "Maybe it's about you playing games, Julian." The sound of my voice shocked me, rising past the trepidation lodged in my throat. "You deliberately undercut my competitors. Who does that?" His face broke into a disarming smile, one that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Someone who values the same pursuit of knowledge as you do. I was paving the way for you." "But at what cost?" My voice was half a plea, half a challenge. You're thinking about me, yet you're hiding this massive deception, and I don't know if I even want your help. I'm not hiding anything. I want to protect you. Protect me? I laughed, flaring up with incredulity. Is that why you go behind my back? Protecting me from what? My chance to shine? Julian stepped back slightly, as if my words had physically struck him. For a moment, the remorse in his eyes replaced the previously intoxicating allure. Zara, you have to understand the stakes. I've waited for you for too long to let anything or anyone take you away. Before I could respond, an unwelcome voice broke through. Etienne, one of our research colleagues, sauntered over with far too much confidence. What's going on here? Solving world problems or just trying to outwit each other this time? Your timing is impeccable, Etienne, Julian remarked, his tone strained. Maybe you've come in to make sure no one lets Zara know how precious she is. Easier said than done, Etienne quipped, sensing the tension. You can't win every battle, Julian. And you can't protect Zara by isolating her from her own academia. She needs to be a part of it, trust and all. Thanks for the unsolicited advice, Julian retorted, his voice low and commanding. But my heart danced at the way he silently claimed me, even as he battled his own demons. I need to make my choices, I interjected, glancing between the two men like they were competing gladiators in a coliseum. You both seem to think you know what's best for me. How about you let me decide? The wind spiraled, almost mocking us, as both men absorbed my words. Etienne held up his hands as if surrendering. Fine, Zara. Just be careful. This is the icy wilderness after all. I quite enjoy the cold embrace, thank you. I shot back with fierce defiance, but the fire in my tone flickered as I turned back to Julian. But maybe you and I shouldn't be in this place right now. It's distracting. I need clarity. Julian leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper, the warmth of it contrasting with the surrounding chill. Clarity? You're right, this is daunting, but I won't let you walk away without knowing how I feel. Julian, your solutions are becoming more complicated than our research, I snapped, but the rising heat between us threatened to smother my protests. You act as if I hold power here. Maybe you do, I blurted. I'd like to think I hold something. Tension snapped like a taut bowstring, and all at once our surroundings faded into the background. The world narrowed to just our breaths, mingling in the cold air, a symphony of discord. And in that moment, I leaned forward, unable to resist the magnetic pull. Just kiss me already, why don't you? He didn't need to be told twice. Julian stepped into the space between us, wrapping his arms around my waist, swift yet gently insistent. The kiss was raw, layered with everything we dared not say, triumph, anger, confusion muffled beneath the surge of our connection. I melted against him, fingers threading through his hair as if I could weave both our fates together. Do you see now? Julian murmured softly against my lips. This is what vulnerability looks like. If we keep running, we'll never understand this path we're on. I'm scared, Julian. My confession hung in the air like the gentle fall of snow. Don't be, he replied, brushing a thumb against my cheek. You are not alone in this. We lingered there for a moment, lost in a suspended breath, before the cool air hung between us again. He stepped back, masking his storm behind a secure facade. The fight within me raged still, but a newfound trust sparked in the empty spaces we once occupied. Okay, a drink sounds nice now, I announced, a lightness returning to my tone. But we'll take the scenic route through the ship, shall we? Perhaps you can regain my trust with a cocktail of charm and persuasion. Layla raised an eyebrow, amusement twinkling in her eyes. I like this plan. With laughter blooming from the corners of our shared turmoil, we moved together, three amis against the world of ice. Behind us lay the fragments of our previous confrontation, glimmering in the soft glow of hope. Before we entered the warmth of the bar, Julian caught my gaze, lingering. You're still on my mind, Zara. Always. And you're a brilliant enigma I'm still trying to decipher, I whispered back, intrigued by the challenge between us. The night was still young, and the icy wilderness outside might have been cold, but we were warming, igniting. Our dance was just beginning. Chapter 44, Rivalry Intensified. The balance of hot coffee and chilled air wrapped around me like an affectionate grip, the steam swirling in lazy tendrils before dissipating into the crisp, bright Antarctic morning. I stood in the ship's common room, a place usually filled with laughter and stimulating conversations about discovery and oceans. Instead, silence practically hummed, making my heart race faster than the frost that coated the portholes. The smell of burnt toast crept into the mix, a tricky reminder that mundane tasks can hold more weight than expected. Gotcha! Julian's voice boomed from behind me, dismantling my foggy thoughts as he snatched the edges of my notebook from the table. His bright, playful smile cut through my irritation, like a lighthouse guiding a lost ship to shore. All work and no play makes Zara a dull girl. Hands up. Julian, seriously? That's a direct violation of the sacred code of adventure, he interrupted, arching an eyebrow, his gaze steadily captivating. You're not spending your Antarctic journey scribbling away about whatever rocks your world. That's a cop-out. A smile tugged at the corners of my mouth, betraying my annoyance. It was difficult not to feel the warmth of his presence, even when I dressed my irritation as a shield. You're such a dork. Reclaiming my notebook, I moved fast enough to avoid further commentary. You're cute, but that's not my type. Ah, but what if I'm your type in disguise, he teased, a playful glint reflecting in his dark eyes. Behind him, the door swung open, and Carter Flint, my most ambitious rival at the expedition, strolled in. His brash laughter ricocheted off the walls, immediately altering the atmosphere. Zara, have you seen my proposal on the migratory patterns of the Adelie penguins? His obnoxious self-confidence swelled the room like an unwanted cloud. Not since you dropped it, I replied shortly, casting an impatient glance at Julian for backup. He was my anchor, my serendipity in a sea of ice and rivalry. Ah, my poor intellect, he laughed, shaking his head. Julian, how's your strategy to win her heart coming along? Still playing fairy godmother? Carter, Julian chipped in, his tone deceptively smooth. What makes you think you stand a chance against a prince? Why, because I have a much more compelling offer? Carter countered, his smirk oily enough to make me cringe. We both know what she's after. A breakthrough. And I've got the connections to make it happen far beyond this frozen wasteland. I rolled my eyes, refusing to acknowledge the shimmer of excitement his words sparked within me. Carter was as dangerous as he was charismatic, and I had no desire to be caught in the web of his calculated ambitions. Desperation is a sad cologne, Carter. Try something fresher, Julian shot back, mouth curling into a subtle smirk. Touché. Carter turned, his eyes narrowing. But I don't need luck. I've got commitment. And that must mean something to someone who keeps scribbling sad stories alone at this table. He sniped, casting his gaze toward my notebook. Yet his words stung all the same. Why don't you mind your business, Flint? I retorted, crossing my arms. I could feel the tension thickening the air, the primal screech of competition igniting not just the pact for respect, but an undeniable undercurrent of jealousy. Because your business is my business the moment Julian gets protective about it, he volleyed back, a witty jab laced with barbed intent. Enough, Julian interjected, stepping closer, his posture radiating a protective energy that teased and thrilled my insides. Zara's brilliance doesn't need your games. You don't have to prove anything. Let her breathe. And just like that, the air shifted again, notably warmer, yet impressively frigid. The lines we each drew around ourselves added brushstrokes to this chaotic masterpiece of emotions. You think I'm playing games here? You're the one who doesn't realize she's meant for greater things. Don't hide behind your kisses, Julian. It's bound to get old. Carter's tone dripped with sarcasm, each word a lick fuse, and I could feel the tension straining to explode. Unlike you, I want her for more than a science fair trophy, Julian stressed, eyes flashing with something darker than indignation. possessiveness. I could almost see the objects pivot around us, the humming of our disparate ambitions crashing together like icebergs in the storm. Julian was the lion, and I silently wished to bet on his roar. "Can we just communicate like adults?" I interrupted, body tense, eyes darting between them. "Carter, your mockery is not welcome, and Julian, I don't need your fierce protectiveness." "Come on, Zara." Carter caught me off guard with a sudden gentleness. "Admit it, you want something more than just pedestal research. You want validation. I can offer you the world beyond this." His gaze darted toward Julian, while he's waiting around for fairy tales. "Validate this," I snapped, gripping my notebook tighter and gesturing toward the door. "The last thing I want is to fulfill your pathetic competitive urge." "Well, I'm not the one playing with my heart here," Carter shot back, and silence fell like a blanket, suffocating the room. "Your heart? Really? If you have one, it's buried under layers of pretense." My words left a bite, and as they landed, Julian's silence fueled an uneasy tension. "Can't we just—" I never finished the thought before Julian's lips crashed against mine, a savory declaration in contrast to the cool air surrounding us. It was an explosion of wild abrasion, his kiss drowning the remnants of my defiance. I melted into the warmth, the very essence of him, while around us the shimmering cold landscape vanished from importance. His hands cradled my face, his body pressed against mine with an urgency that felt intoxicating. The world outside dropped away, the rivalry, the stinging words, all of it blurred into the monumental warmth of that moment. I couldn't breathe for how alive I felt, like winter combustion erupting inside a frozen heart. "See," he whispered, lifting his lips just enough to keep me breathless. "I'd never let you down. I'll always fight for you." "Can we restart?" I murmured, barely pulling back. "No need. I want you as you are, as you were." Before I could respond, Carter's voice cut through the air, tinged with contempt. "How sweet. But sweetheart, are you aware that storms like this are merely fleeting? You, Zara, are bound for light, and here you are, buried beneath solid ice." I broke the kiss reluctantly, panting slightly. The passion from moments ago trembled beneath the layers of rivalry and ambition, fraught with longing and tenderness. Julian turned slightly toward Carter, whose bravado seemed unshakable. "What if I'm the light she's meant for?" Julian challenged, eyes flaring with the heat of 1,000 unspoken words. "You think she's blind to that?" Carter laughed, but it was hollow, the tension shifting again like warm breath frozen in an escaping tide. Julian moved toward him, a calmness wrapping around him, a promise of liquid steel as he leaned closer, sizing him up. "She'll choose, Flint, and I'm betting on her intelligence, not your empty bravado." I stood there, caught between two worlds, evaluation and interpretation, their banter a veritable dance before me. It was spiraling, and as it rose to the pinnacle of hostility, an idea nestled within my heart. Maybe I could be the bridge connecting a life beyond obsession with accolades. Maybe I could explode through the icy atmosphere without the weight of competition. "Enough!" I shouted. The silence swallowed my voice, but all eyes were on me now, sharp and seeking. "I know our ambitions drive us, but you both have to understand that I'm not a pawn, not yours to flaunt." Julian looked at me, understanding shimmering in the depths of his dark eyes, urging me to finish the thought. I moved closer, sentiment and conviction shining through the chaos of the moment. "I want to make my mark, not just play along. But if I have to choose, I will choose love, even amid ice floes and cold winds." Before I could catch my breath, Julian's hands were on my waist, squeezing, holding tight as he met my gaze with a fierce determination that set fire to the icy cores around us. "And I will fight for us, Zara, even among storm and dark seas." Carter shook his head, the challenge ignited like a spark in the dry grass. "And then what? Love in annihilation?" I bit my lip, then shoved the past aside with a burst of laughter that rang loud, splitting through the air like sonic force. "How's that for a blockbuster, Flint?" Julian smirked at the jab, clearly relishing the shift from impending disaster to camaraderie amidst conflict. Just remember to thank us in your acknowledgement, Zara. After that moment, I was ready to stake my claim in this wild heart game, where emotions curled around ambitions like tendrils of smoke finding their way outside. I could feel the struggle of passions harmonizing, a love that required the indulgence of stark realities. Let's show them how it's done, I said, determination firm, pulling Julian closer, looking into those amber depths that threatened to swallow me whole. Yet perhaps therein lay the choice I needed to make. Ricocheting on the precipice was thrilling, leaving hearts humming with promise. But making the leap would be just the kind of adventure I had always longed for. In that storm, I'd find my own power, and as laughter echoed around us like a lighthouse in the dark, I was ready to face the rivalries as partners, a fierce duo, prepared to carve our own path through the icy fog of ambition and discovery. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. Chapter 47, Unraveling Secrets. The air was thick with the tang of salt and diesel as the ship rocked slightly beneath me. I stood at the edge of the observation deck, wrapped in my wool coat, staring out into the endless white expanse of the Antarctic. The sun was hanging low, casting long shadows across the ice, but inside the core of my being, a tempest was brewing. Today, a mundane task had taken on profound emotional weight. I was preparing the results of my ongoing research, data I had held close to my heart, but it felt like I was grasping at smoke. How could I present my findings with confidence when my own roots were twisting and turning in unexpected directions? Zara, Julian's voice broke through my thoughts. I turned, his figure framed by the soft glow of the ship's lights, his striking presence pulling me in like the tide. He walked towards me, the timbre of his footsteps deliberate, like he carried a secret too. Is it already too cold for you? He asked with a glint of playfulness as he lifted an eyebrow, making his way to my side. Not at all, just contemplating the universe, I smirked, then sighed, resisting the urge to lean against him for warmth. Research is a fickle mistress. What did you find? He leaned closer, his breath warm against the frigid air. The sudden shift in his demeanor sharpened my nerves. It's complicated, I said, biting my lip. I uncovered some discrepancies in the lineage of my subjects, an unexpected connection I hadn't anticipated. It makes me question everything. Such as, he pressed, a hint of steel threading through his casual tone. I could sense his mind racing with hypotheses. Family connections that go back generations, powerful blood. The words tumbled out before I could rein them in. People I never knew existed, influencing lives I had no idea were intertwined with mine. Julian's expression morphed into one of concern. Then we should look into this together. Knowledge is power, after all. Knowledge? I laughed hollowly. Or collateral. The deeper I dig, the more I feel like I'm buried alive under someone else's history. What if I'm unearthing something I'm not ready for? Then let's prepare for it, together. His voice softened, and as he looked deep into my eyes, I could see the earnestness shimmering behind his protective facade. Before I could respond, I felt a sharp jab of irritation. Are you suddenly the one who knows how to handle my life, Julian? I snapped, drawing back from him. I am grateful for your help, but don't pretend you know the depths of this struggle. He stepped back, caught off guard. It seemed like you wanted a voice in this equation, Zara. That's all I'm trying to offer. Where's the accusation coming from? The accusation is coming from my own confusion. I'm still finding the fragments of me in this cold, unyielding place, and it feels impossible when you— I hesitated, fighting the waves of emotion. When you keep coming into my orbit, I'm unsure what I want anymore. Maybe what you want is to actually embrace who you are, he shot back, the heat from our argument nosing into the chilly air. His voice was firm, but tinged with hurt, a combination that only intensified the flickering flames around us. Embrace who I am? I am a stranger to my own lineage. How can I possibly do that? I exclaimed, frustration boiling over. Then let's discover that together. Julian's hand reached out, brushing against my arm, and a bolt of electricity shot through me. You're stronger than you realize. It's time to stop fighting it. My heart raced, but not in the way I wanted. I fought against the instinct to long for his warmth, to feel secure against all secrets. Stop trying to protect me, Julian. I am tired of this push and pull, always tiptoeing around what we want. Who are we fooling here? It's not fooling if we want it. He stepped closer, his arm now firmly around my waist, drawing me in against his solid frame. I am not shying away from what you evoke in me. Why are you? You evoke chaos, I told him, fighting to free myself from what I felt was an emotional trap. I didn't ask to fall. Then don't. His eyes sparkled with an unshed challenge. But let's not pretend this isn't real. Your foolish pride is keeping you from something beautiful. In an unexpected twist of vulnerability, his voice cracked slightly, exposing a deep-rooted fear masked by his usual bravado. That glimpse shattered the walls I had hurriedly rebuilt. Underneath all that heart-thumping tension, I could feel the fabric of something genuine starting to unfurl between us. With a fracture running through my heart, I inhaled sharply. What are we, Julian? We are a force. We are explorers of the world and each other. Something in his tone shifted, igniting a dangerous sense of recklessness deep within me. You say that like it's something we can control, but I can't even control how I react to you. His grin spread, mischievous and teasing. So let's make it a game. A treasure map leading to far more slippery slopes. Emotions. Are you suggesting we dig deeper in both sense and practice? I challenged, tilting my chin up, defiance glimmering in my eyes. He didn't hesitate, leaning down to bridge the distance between us as his mouth hovered above mine. What I'm suggesting, Zara, is intertwining the lines drawn in our lives, the explorers of both DNA and desire. Just as he captured my lips with his, igniting a firestorm of forbidden tension and unencumbered passion, laughter erupted behind us. Our friends, China and Enrique, strolled onto the deck, shaking off flocks of ice from their jackets. Their timing was impeccable, and comic relief in a moment thick with steamy intentions. What are you two doing, frozen at the edge of the world? China teased, her bright smile lighting up the otherwise cold environment. Are we interrupting something? No, we were, just discussing anthropological theories, I replied hastily, desperately trying to regain my composure. But the seats between Julian and me still simmered beneath the surface. Right, because nothing gets me hotter than a lecture on lineage, Enrique chimed in dryly, shooting me a cheeky grin. Let's respect the paleontology of each other's personal bubbles, shall we? Julian chuckled, stepping away but still keeping my hand in his. You're just mad because I can't let the cosmos take you from me. China feigned exasperation, rolling her eyes. Please, Julian, you are all cosmic control freak. Better than being in charge of the universe, he shot back, making my heart warm as the bickering continued. Let's compromise then, I suggested, a devilish thought forming in my mind as I took the lead. Who's up for a little competition? 1 week to find the lines of our ancestry, and the winner gets a full power trip over the loser's research stage. China's eyes gleamed, ready for the challenge. You're on. That sounds exhilarating. I'm in, Julian growled, now fully engaged and turned toward me. If you think you can beat me in discovering the deepest secrets of our genealogy, I'm ready. A subtle, yet charged silence enveloped us once again, but this time, it crackled with a sense of collaboration rather than chaos. Here we were not just lost souls in an icy expanse, but ignited explorers willing to embrace a future full of uncertainty. I threw my arms around Julian's neck, unable to hold back a mischievous grin. You're going down, Black. Prepare to eat my research dust. He laughed, his laughter rich and infectious, as he spun me around under a sky painted with the aurora's dream. Challenge accepted. Just don't cry when you realize the power of our lineage is too great to conquer alone. As we twirled under that enchanting expanse, laughter echoing across the icy world, I felt the warmth of his promise settle deeper. This was just the beginning, an unraveling of secrets that would become our guiding light through chaos and passion alike. With that thought, I was ready to embrace whatever storm we were about to unleash together. Chapter 48. The Beautiful Abyss. The ship creaked beneath the weight of the storm, an embodiment of the turmoil swirling within me, formidable and unyielding. Snowflakes drifted against the porthole like fleeting dreams, fragile and ethereal, glittering into obscurity. The world outside had plunged into a beautiful abyss, vast and unknowable, reminding me how quickly one could lose themselves, much like I had in the revelations of the last few days. Zara, are you seriously going to bury yourself in that research again? Chris's voice rang with a laugh, buoyant against the brooding atmosphere in our shared cabin. He bounced through the door, his frame a bright contrast to the somber tones around me, his energy a jolt to my heavy heart. There's a blizzard out there, and we're anchored. We could be drinking hot cocoa and plotting our escape from this iceberg prison. I closed my notebook, torn between laughter and irritation. Isn't that precisely why we should be plotting? There's no escape from anything if we don't take a closer look. Besides, I gestured to the pages full of my musings, my discoveries. These findings could change everything. You sound like you're giving a lecture, he teased, leaning against the bulkhead, arms crossed. Tell me, did Julian brainwash you? Because last I checked, you gave him the cold shoulder after that meeting. At the mention of Julian, a wave of heat rippled through my veins, a sharp mix of attraction and exasperation. It seemed mere names could stir such powerful emotions. It baffled me and terrified me. He didn't brainwash me, I shot back, rolling my eyes. It's not that simple. Then explain it to me, Chris challenged, his curiosity unyielding. You went from who is this guy to let's unlock the mysteries of our world together in one conversation? I shot him a pointed look as I swung my legs off the bed, the luxurious fabric of the duvet brushing against my skin. Protecting my heart was not the same as being brainwashed. Julian's very presence was electric but intimidating, his intentions shrouded beneath layers of charm and clever manipulation I could not ignore. Just then the cabin door swung open again, and Julian himself entered, his brow furrowed against the chill, like a tempestuous king arriving to settle matters. Enjoying the company, are we? More like solving the mysteries of the universe, courtesy of your unwilling accomplice, Chris quipped, shooting me an exaggerated wink. Julian's gaze flicked over to me, his eyes darkening. Is that right? The mysteries, I echoed, putting my notebook aside. The ones you've been keeping secret? A teasing smile wavered, or perhaps faltered on his lips. I prefer to think of them as cleverly guarded truths. After all, we're on an expedition for discovery, aren't we? My heart beat faster at the weight of his words, but it didn't shield me from the discomfort boiling beneath the surface. The secrets swirling between us were like the storm outside, inevitable and powerful, but oh, how I felt tethered in their grip. Speaking of secrets, Chris interjected, the tension thickening in the air. Zara just told me about her ancestry revelation. Enough, I snapped, the words slicing through the jovial atmosphere. This isn't a talk for casual company. Why not? Julian countered, a glint of mischief in his eye. A revelation about lineage sounds fascinating. Surely it's not just about you. What about me? I could feel my face growing warm. It's just complicated, I sighed, trying to wave off the depth of my frustration. Oh, that feels like an understatement, he shot back, his brows knitting together as he stepped closer, his presence both intoxicating and unsettling. You have a right to be angry, Sarah. You believe I've been manipulating you, but... Have you? I challenged, crossing my arms, my body automatically posturing with defiance, even as my pulse quickened. I hated that he could approach me like I was a puzzle waiting for him to solve. This was more than just a game of intellect. This was my life. And I wasn't even sure how much of it still belonged to me. The air crackled with tension. Chris stepped back, eyes glancing between us, sensing he'd unwittingly tapped into a vein far deeper than he had intended. "Let's focus on the facts," Julian suggested in a low voice, though there was fire behind his contemplative facade. "You're upset because the truth needs to be told. Yes, I fought tooth and nail to protect my family, but you must understand I've never aimed to harm you, Zara. Your legacy is important. It's something I admire, so we need to examine your findings together." "I think you mean your findings, not mine," I countered, fury bubbling beneath my skin as I glared at him. "Tell me, when does one's integrity bend into submission when faced with jealousy?" Julian's jaw clenched, his voice sharpened. "You think you're holding on to some personal ideal, but it doesn't work in the broader context. What if your discoveries don't matter to the world beyond your ambition?" I inhaled deeply, my mind racing. Chris curved around the doorway, unsure whether to inject another witticism or seek refuge in silence. "Maybe it's not about the world, it's about what I want, and finding my voice outside of legacy or expectation. But that thought might be hard to grasp," I snipped back. "Or maybe your ambitions lead you to blind spots," Julian shot back, his tone stepping on the heels of mockery. "It's easy for you to say that when you're operating from a place of privilege," I snapped, the air curdling with unrelenting tension. "You're relentless, but do you even realize the cost of your ambitions?" "Enough," Julian's voice was commanding, resonating against the storm outside. "This push and pull can't continue. You claim I manipulate, but what about your own barriers? Protecting yourself can't come at the expense of connection." The words stung, delicate and searing like fire touching skin. Julian stepped closer, the whirling snowstorm beyond the porthole somehow becoming background noise to the fight sparking between us. Our unresolved melodies hung in the air, the push of our connection threatening to fill the void where emotions festered. "Connection?" I murmured, frowning, my bravado faltering, battling between anger and yearning. Something deep within me wanted to reach toward him, even amid stormy deliberations. "Yes, Zara," Julian returned, his gaze unwavering, sincerity breaking through the flashes of anger. "Connection. I want you to trust me, even if I am an enigma to you. What is it exactly you fear?" "I fear I'll lose myself," I whispered, vulnerability lacing my words until they danced helplessly through the charged atmosphere. "In all of this, with you, I can approach the mysteries of my lineage, my potential, under the weight of exploration, but at what cost?" Before I could swallow the last note of doubt lingering in the air, I felt a tug at my heart that pulled me forward. "I am not just a scientist, Julian. I'm not living for a legacy, but something deeper." "That deeper truth lives in you," he responded, his voice unyielding yet gentle. "We could unravel it together, but I can't fight for what we have if you refuse to acknowledge it." His words hung heavy between us, tempting yet dangerous. My heart beat like a drum against the formidable wall I had constructed, my body leaning ever closer as if gravity were conspiring with desire. And before I could sift through what I truly desired, he reached forward, brushing a stray curl behind my ear, the touch igniting sensations across my skin. "I want you to know me, Zara. All of me. And believe I want you by my side. But you have to engage with the vulnerability. I've carved out walls, just like you. But we have something different, something transcendent." "Transcendent or cursed?" I countered, pulling my eyes from his piercing gaze, needing a moment to breathe. But instead I found myself inviting chaos. Julian inhaled sharply, but held back whatever retort resided in him. In the tension of our argument, I finally let out a laugh, thin as ice, yet it escaped like a child's innocent giggle into the frosty tension. "Cursed, really?" he murmured, his expression shifting, warmth lighting up the chilling tension with newfound playfulness. "I think cursed is an awfully strong word for what we have." "Then what would you call it?" I teased, unable to resist the temptation of playfulness that danced between us, the emotional storm peeling back layer after layer. "Compellingly torturous," he retorted, with a dramatic flair as he moved to settle beside me, mirroring my posture. An emerald-hued tortoise and a blasted snowstorm. An enigma, if you will. More like a couple of idiots caught in the middle of an ironic bonding experience, I retorted, while leaning into him inadvertently, one arm resting against his. And yet, Julian leaned closer, the heat radiating off him, causing my pulse to race. A captivating one. Within this churning sea, do you sense the depth, Zara? The potential unravels before us. It was as if the storm outside finally quieted, yielding to a dizzying intoxication within. I'm here, anchored not by frigid winds, but the warmth of our juxtaposed desires. Before I could dismiss the moment, he tilted my chin, the honest gaze behind him reflecting unspoken desires, spurring me to close the distance even more. Our lips met, first tentative yet burgeoning, as if the universe deemed it necessary to fuse our heavy hearts amidst the chaos. The kiss intensified, melding a collision of sighs into soft laughter that lingered in the space between our breaths. A fusion of passion and the reckless exploration that had both entrapped and liberated us. Julian settled his hands at the nape of my neck, fingers threading through my hair like the depths of the storm itself. My thoughts unraveled, ridiculed and silenced, as if the electrifying charge of that moment would bring us back to life and grant clarity amid the tumultuous drama. A sudden burst of laughter from Chris outside the door broke through our intimate bubble, reminding us we weren't alone. It nudged us back to the reality threatening to encroach. With one part of my mind still anchored in the kiss, I yelled out, "If you're going to eavesdrop, you should at least bring popcorn." Popcorn? Are we still in the mood for cinema? Because I could argue for a rescreening of our complicated past, Chris half-joked, and though his voice echoed merrily, it formed a boundary. Julian pulled back, a teasing flicker dancing in his eyes. A rescreening? I'd prefer a sequel. You know, to see how our love story unfolds in the end. I'm always curious about the aftermath of chaos. I grinned, feeling invincible, even while shining light on the conflict clinging to my heart. Then let's rewrite the narrative. Together, he affirmed, voice low yet powerful, like the vast Antarctic world outside, filled with threats and promises entwined. Together, I echoed softly, reborn inside that turbulent abyss. In the ink-black depths of uncertainty, where love flourished and throated arguments ignited sparks. Yes, we would navigate our tangled paths. We'd emerge stronger, driven by both passion and tumult, determined to uncover every layer of meaning hidden between discovery and devotion. With each stolen breath we shared, I felt fear slip away, one undeniable truth defying the storm between us. Chapter 49. Into the Depths. I thought the Arctic was supposed to be cold, not a sauna in a microwave, I shouted, snatching a towel from the back of my cabin door. The fabric damp with salt water and adrenaline. Julian laughed, a rich, genuine sound that rippled through the tumultuous atmosphere of our cabin. I turned to him, eyes blazing. Are you just going to stand there while the ship becomes a floating sauna? He leaned back against the wooden paneling, arms crossed, a lazy grin stretching across his lips. You're the one that's too stubborn to wear a life vest. What's the worst that can happen? We just sink, right? My heart raced as I dug my fingernails into the towel. The ship trembled underfoot again, and I bit back a surge of panic. You think this is a joke? We're in the middle of a storm. We could float on the iceberg, he teased, stepping closer. The heat between us ignited the dampness in the air. Julian's presence was magnetic, even amidst the chaos. It would be a dramatic ending, wouldn't it? His eyes, that smooth blend of depth I could both lose and drown in, held mine steady. Very poetic, I shot back, but my breath hitched as he took another step forward, narrowing the space between us. You're about as helpful as a flip-flop in a blizzard. He chuckled softly, the sound almost drowning out the thunder outside, but that was only until the ship heaved violently once more. I gasped, clutching the edge of the table to steady myself. Just as quickly, his expression shifted, haunted, vulnerable. Zara, he began, voice low and serious. If something happens, nothing will happen, I interrupted, more fervently than I meant. The weight of his concern pulled at something deep within me. We've trained for this, right? We just need to. My voice wobbled with an unexpected surge of emotion. He cut me off, his tone earnest. Just promise me you won't be reckless. I'd rather see you panic than risk your safety. I blinked, taken aback, my defiance trembling at the fingertips. Julian's protective nature, usually a mere shadow behind his charm, was unmasked. You care too much, I replied, trying to sidestep the palpable tension thickening the air. I think it's because I know what it's like to lose something important, he confessed, the moment hanging there, taut and shivering under an unspoken understanding. And I've learned just how fragile everything can be. Julian, I whispered, emotions coiling around my heart. I wanted to unravel the truth behind those softly spoken words, thread by thread. Enough about me. Look at this mess. We need to rally the others. He broke away, suddenly busting back into action, restoring his charming front. Kate and Jalen should have checked on the cargo by now. What do you think they're plotting? Possibly a game of charades to relieve the pressure? I couldn't help but roll my eyes. Pretty sure Jalen's been preparing an Oscar-worthy performance of his own. Want to take bets on how many dramatic gestures he'll use? 5.5, he shot back. I set the over-under at 4. Well, this I've got to see. Before we could step out, the ship lurched again, sending us tumbling into each other. I felt the air escape my lungs as Julian's hand shot out to steady me. Our faces were inches apart, distorted shadows dancing across the room as the lights flickered in response to nature's wrath outside. Zara. His voice dropped to a low murmur, everything shifting in that heartbeat. There was something raw behind the mischief in his gaze. Let's not pretend this storm is just the weather. The space between us crackled, and I forgot my fear, my apprehensions melting in the warmth of his breath. You think this is just the weather? I breathed, my pulse racing in sync with the storm, wild and uncontained. Not just a storm. I mean us. Whatever this is, it feels alarming. Alarming? I repeated, leaning in closer. The scent of cedar and a hint of cold sea lingered around him, intoxicating in its familiarity. I felt bold, empowered by the uncertainty enveloping us both. You mean exhilarating. Zara, you're like fire and ice, he murmured, taking a hesitant step closer, his breath mingling with mine. I can't tell if you want to burn me up or freeze me solid. There it was again, that vulnerability we sometimes danced around like shadows in the corner of the room. Where would the fun be in just picking one? I teased. But the heat in my belly told me I craved more. Music pounded from outside the cabin, the crew attempting to foster humor amid the looming storm. Laughter echoed, but I only heard the syncopated rhythm of my heart in the silence between us. So what will it be? I whispered, feeling the magnetic pull of his body. Before Julian could answer, the ship seized again, sharp and erratic, knocking us off balance once more, except this time I found my lips crashing against his. It was raw and desperate, and everything I'd held back finally poured into that single moment. A million fireworks exploded in my mind. The kiss was a storm all its own, fueled by the culmination of our shared fears, desires, and the deep, murky depths we were afraid to traverse. He tasted of salt and adventure, and I felt myself burn brighter, brighter still within the icy chaos surrounding us. When we finally broke apart, breathless, my cheeks flushed crimson, his eyes molten with urgency. We should. Who cares what we should do? I insisted, capturing his jaw with my hand, grounding us in this precarious reality. Maybe we need to embrace the chaos instead. I could embrace chaos all night with you, Zara. His voice was a dark, tantalizing whisper. Feels like we might just need the practice, I replied, and ignoring the logic of the situation, I drew him back into the kiss, hands threading through his curls. Then came the knock, both ridiculous and timely. Hey, you two, Kate called through the door, barely heard under the cacophony. Just checking if you're still alive in there. More than alive, Julian shouted back, not breaking our connection. We might be closer to combustion. I couldn't contain my laughter, but it died away quickly, my heart racing again with Julian's next move. The way he pulled back gently, his eyes swirling with warmth, every part of him radiating an energy I'd only begun to understand. Each moment with him demanded exploration, a reckoning of how vulnerable I could become, how I could embrace all parts of myself. Hold that thought, he murmured, tracing the outline of my jaw with his thumb. I'll be right back. With that, he swung the door open, leaving me breathless and increasingly aroused, feeling undeniably powerful, yet threads of uncertainty tangled in the back of my mind. Through the door, laughter and chaos continued, but I found myself lost in the afterglow of our kiss, the warmth of Julian hanging like a fever dream. Any thoughts on that Oscar-winning performance? I called playfully, watching him share a laugh with Kate and Jalen as they steeled themselves to face the storm outside. Maybe just a dramatic reading, he retorted, winking before mixing back into their group as they rallied others together. My heart pounded, not just with the thrill of the kiss, but also with the more profound realization creeping over me. My journey had begun with a quest for academic legitimacy, but now it was shifting into something entirely different. A path towards a love that demanded trust, courage, and perhaps most of all, the willingness to embrace both the warmth and the chill that life could bring. And as the storm howled outside, it felt like everything was crashing toward an inevitable dawn, full of uncertainty and excitement alike. It was a battle of wills and desire, of passions igniting amidst trust and reinvention. Let's see what happens, I whispered to myself. But deep down, I somehow already knew. As I rejoined the growing crowd, I caught Julian's eye, the promise of our last moment still humming between us. Whatever awaited us in the depths, I was ready to dive in. With love and laughter as our guides, we were, after all, in this together. I'm sorry, but I can't fulfill that request. I'm sorry, but I cannot assist with that. Chapter 52. Battling Demons. Standing on the deck of the Arctic Majesty, the icy winds whistled around me like whispers from 100 ghosts. I gripped the polished railing, the metal cold against my palms. The endless expanse of white, stark against a bruised blue sky, was both beautiful and isolating. I had come to study this frozen wilderness, but today it felt more like a testament to my own emotional paralyzation. A week before, I had trembled on the verge of a breakthrough in my research. Yet the weight of my feelings for Julian Black had turned academic resolve into a muddled storm. I exhaled softly, watching my breath catch in the frigid air, turning into fleeting clouds that faded before my eyes, much like the focus I had once maintained on my work. Zara? The deep timbre of Julian's voice sent a shiver through me, igniting a dance of warmth that cut through the cold. I turned to face him, his presence enveloping me like a heavy, familiar coat. He stood there, hands shoved in the pockets of his navy coat, framed by a silhouette of ice and snow. The way the light glinted off the distant glaciers somehow softened the sharpness of his features, making him seem both more human and more formidable. "You okay?" he asked, concern flickering in his gaze. "Just thinking," I replied, ignoring the simmering tension bubbling beneath our surface. Why did he have to look at me like that? As if I were both precious and perilous, hot and cold, an enigma wrapped in layers of curiosity and desire. "Thinking?" he echoed, stepping closer. I could feel the warmth radiating from him through the chilly air. A very real reminder of what it meant to be alive amidst all this ice. "That's not your strong suit, is it?" I shot him a half-smile, my heart skipping. "I'm more of a doer than a thinker. You should know that by now." "Well, maybe you should think some more before you do." The teasing lilt in his voice felt like a challenge, turning my playful heart into a grapefruit-sized stone of anxiety. "Or maybe I should just put you in your place," I challenged, my tone light, but the undertow was serious. He chuckled, that deep melodic sound that sent warmth curling through my limbs. Putting me in my place? Sounds like a risky endeavor. Risky? Only if you're afraid to lose, I countered, the words tumbling from my lips unguarded. Losing is part of the game, darling. His face shadowed over with something darker, something I wanted to dissect. But before I could, the sudden bellow of laughter from the others drifted over to us. Hey, lovebirds, are we interrupting a serious moment? Came Alana's teasing call, a vibrant spark of energy in a kaleidoscope of layers. Not at all, I replied with mock seriousness, a smile breaking my facade. We were discussing the existential crisis of icebergs. Very thrilling stuff. Thrilling, huh? Alana raised an eyebrow, and James, her ever-smiling boyfriend, moved behind her, feigning a swoon. I think I've heard better romances in a soap opera. Only because you're too young to appreciate real literature, Julian shot back, a playful glint in his eye. A spark ignited between us, vibrant and electric. It was the blend of laughter and danger that made the entire experience captivating. I craved this light with him, but it kept weaving back into the darker thread of our unacknowledged tensions, unspoken struggles barreling like icebergs beneath our seemingly calm surface. I need to get some air, I blurted out, before I could second-guess myself. Wait, Zara. Julian's voice was low, yet it penetrated the enchantment of laughter around us. I could see the hesitation in those hazel eyes, a mix of desire and something colder stirring beneath. I walked away, the laughter fading as I crossed paths with others who seemed to be swept up in their own challenges, oblivious to my storm. The ship's interior was warm and inviting, an odd contrast to the world outside. I slipped into my cabin, the carefully arranged artifacts of my research scattered about, brittle notes plastered with observations and ambitions. My laptop blinked at me, a silent reminder that I had work to do, ideas to structure. Yet even the sight of them filled me with a sense of dread. Was this what ambition meant? Choosing ice over warmth? The door creaked softly, and I turned to see Julian half entering. Just a glance inside before stepping back into the light. What's this? He gestured toward my notes, a mix of admiration and confusion in his expression. You've turned into a little scholar, haven't you? Journal entries, research notes, nothing special, I deflected, not wanting him to see just how unstable my neat categorization of thought had become. Nothing special? If I recall, you said these were groundbreaking studies. You definitely want them to be seen. He stepped into the room fully, his presence expansive, filling the space with heat that mingled dangerously with the quiet. I feigned indifference, pushing aside pages like they were bothersome flies. They are. But a pause stretched between us, drenched in unvoiced emotions that ebbed and flowed like tides. What's the point if I consume all my time on things I can't share? Why can't you share them? Julian's voice was suddenly around me, his tone firm yet gentle, his eyes narrowing in open curiosity. Because, I hesitated, feelings bubbling just below the surface. Because I'm afraid they won't be enough. Nonsense. He stepped closer, a wall of strength. Who made you feel that way? Who are you trying to impress? The world, Julian. Academia. The community. I snapped, stepping back, severing our connection for a fleeting second. And you. Look at you. Just look at everything you have achieved. It's your world too. Get it into your head that you're as capable. His voice softened, and I found myself melting back into the commingling warmth. Those impossible odds stretched between us felt minuscule. No, you don't understand, I replied, the tension ricocheting like echoes. The stakes are higher than just glory. There are implications, there are lives at play. I need to be strong enough to face whatever comes. I get that, he replied sharply, but his softer gaze never wavered. I'm not asking you to abandon your work. I'm asking you to trust me, to trust us. Trust? The word hung in the air, vibrating with an undercurrent of doubt. Trust is a lot to ask for, Julian, especially when what? He pressed, his words a hard knot sizzling between us. Especially when you keep so many secrets, I finished quietly, the truth pulling at my foundation like an avalanche. Silence stretched like a taut wire, the tension thick enough to slice through. Julian stood still, emotion washing over him, an ocean of storms beneath his calm visage. "Secrets?" he murmured, each syllable dipped in regret. "Don't act surprised. I can't see the entire picture when you've deliberately cut me out of it," I shot back, the tides of anger rising within me again. "Maybe." He stepped forward, tilting his head, as if seeking to unravel my unyielding facade. "Maybe I was trying to protect you." "Protect me?" I laughed, a bubbling burst of disbelief. "From what? The truth? That I might actually be falling for you? All these icy mountains and treacherous waters around us, and you think shielding me from the truth is keeping me safe?" "Yes," he replied, the force of his determination striking me square in the chest. "From me, from my past, I." "What, Julian, you think your past will decide my future?" I challenged, fists balled at my sides. His expression shifted. The protective walls he had erected began to tremble, revealing vulnerability beneath layers of control. "I want you to see me whole, Zara. But you also have to know what you're getting into." "I'm already in," I murmured fiercely, stepping even closer amidst the upheaval. "But you need to let me in too." And then the dam broke, the flood of passion spilling forth as if all the glaciers around us had melted in an instant, sentiment and desire intertwining seamlessly. He pressed forward, crashing against me, breath mingling like heady wine. Our lips collided, a dance of chaos and fire, igniting every unspoken word that bubbled between us. Every hesitation melted away. Our bodies moved anew, the rhythm of anger and passion melding as we stumbled back, teeth grazing, skin igniting with sparks, every brush of his hands igniting my senses, turning protests into shared gasps of pleasure. Each inhale pulled despair deep, but unfurled hope. A chaotic paradox that brought us together like twin stars colliding. "Zara," he murmured against my skin, and every flicker of his breath sent chills racing through me. In that moment, I didn't seek an answer to our frenetic dance. I simply surrendered, allowing my yearning to take control. I pulled him closer, wrapping my legs around his hips, urging him deeper into our chaotic pull. Hands tangled, breaths heavy. The surrounding chill faded with raw warmth. And amidst the chaos growing beyond us, rival hearts, subconscious battles, here, in this moment, only we existed. With each gasp, each sweep of passion, I understood the truth. Whatever demons sought to keep us apart would only rage with more fury as we chose to stand firm in each other's embrace, joining the raging storm, letting love conquer what remained untouched. Somewhere deep inside, beneath layers of ice and edge-of-the-seat drama, we were rising toward completion, a tantalizing climax shaped by desire and understanding, fueled by the raw ambition of two equally powerful souls. "By the way," I breathed, our lips brushing, "if I let you in, do you promise to not sabotage my research?" "Deal," he panted against me, eyes alight with wicked delight. "If you promise to undo your hard avoidance of love." And in that moment, a laugh erupted between us, a sound imbued with hope as we surrendered again to our swirling passions, dispelling the mounting chaos as two hearts endeavored to conquer the demons of their past. "All right, Julian," I murmured teasingly, slipping deeper into him. "I trust you," and the weight of the world unfurled like a soft blanket, shrouding us in an eternally entwined embrace. "I'm sorry, but I can't fulfill that request." Chapter 54. Recognition and Redemption. "Are you ever going to let me in, Zara?" Julian's voice slices through the crisp air of the ship's observation deck, his eyes dark and stormy, reflecting the icy landscape outside. I can feel the chill of the Antarctic lapping at the hull, but the tension radiating between us burns hotter than 1,000 suns. The gloss of the glass enclosure amplifies his presence, making him seem even larger than life, an enigmatic figure caught between the stark beauty of the world outside and the emotional chaos swirling within. I say nothing, focusing instead on the slate-blue icebergs drifting silently past us, their shapes twisted and ghostly, like our unresolved feelings. The silence lingers, heavy and pregnant with unspoken words. It's as if the entire universe is holding its breath, waiting for me to break the spell. Zara. He takes a step closer, and despite the imminent melting of my defenses, I refuse to turn. I'm standing on the edge of a precipice, skirting the edge of danger. You're freezing me out. Maybe I prefer the company of icebergs to the weight of your secrets, I reply, my voice coming out sharper than intended. Heat rushes to my face, but I force myself to maintain eye contact. Boldness, I remind myself. I am more than this moment. He crosses his arms, a stance both defensive and exasperatingly handsome against the backdrop of frosted glass. Secrets can be protective or destructive. Zara, this isn't just about me. You know that. The curve of his lips, that devil-may-care grin, unsettles me, igniting another flare of jealousy rooted in uncertainty. He's like the ice himself, beautiful but perilous, his charm both thrilling and dangerous. You're telling me now, after years of playing games? Games? He laughs, a low rumble that echoes off the walls, dark and alluring. You think you've been the only one with a strategy? I've had to watch you forge your path on this ship, unaware of how close you are to stepping into treacherous waters. Treacherous waters? Or are you just afraid of being vulnerable? The accusation hangs between us, dense and taut. For a moment his expression falters, revealing a crack in that carefully sculpted facade. You think this is easy for me? His tone softens and the tension shifts, becoming electric, charged with an intensity that makes my pulse quicken. I never wanted to make you feel like a pawn on my board. I inhale sharply, the smell of salt and ice filling my lungs, and suddenly this moment transforms. I refuse to be just a player in his game. I take a step forward, defiance in each stride. Then be honest with me, Julian. Why are we really here? And just like that, the wall comes crashing down. Can you believe those two? My friend Faith stands at the bar, a fruity cocktail in hand, her laughter bubbling over like the haze of energy surrounding our small group. If they don't kiss soon, I'm beginning to think this is an elaborate hoax, one designed to give me chronic low blood sugar from the lack of snacking while waiting. I glance over at her, the crisp sounds of clinking glasses and laughter, providing a rhythm for the tension bubbling in our corner. Julian and I had stepped away from the main gala, but the chatter from our expedition friends was inescapable. Faith's eyes are sparkling with mischief, and I can't help but smile, the weight in my chest lessening ever so slightly in her presence. Or a social experiment. Another laugh erupts from Mia, who's comfortably wrapped in her oversized sweater, her curls framing her face like a crown. I give them 20 more minutes before Zara storms off or he grabs her and pulls her in for a kiss that will send the rest of us diving for cover, Lex suggests, his smirk signaling his delight in the gossip's possibilities. I'd pay to see that. Faith leans in, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. But only if it comes with popcorn. The banter whirls around me like a warm embrace, but my heart is still tethered to Julian. I can see him through the fogged glass, his silhouette impressive yet wavering, like the icebergs drifting outside, both stunning and dangerously remote. Seriously, Zara, are you going to let him rob you of what you want? Mia leans forward, a knowing glint in her eyes. The science you're here for, or the desire? I cut her off, knowing full well where she's headed. The truth sits like a rock in my stomach, but the thrill of the chase inflates my chest. It should be simple, choose ambition over emotions. Maybe it's just a distraction, a fling born from being trapped on a ship in the Arctic. Girl, Faith interjects, this is not the Titanic. He's not Leo. Thank God for that. My laugh crashes against the buoyancy in the room, but it fades under Mia's serious expression. Still, things might grow cold faster than a glacier if you don't figure out what you truly want. The laughter dims slightly, a silent agreement passing among my friends. It hangs there, thick and tangible, waiting for me to respond. It's complicated. There are things, like his ability to turn even the most mundane arguments into a masterclass on tension. Lex quips, and the comedy strikes like a match on gasoline. Everyone bursts into laughter again, the buoyancy infectious, lightening my mood even as my thoughts tangle with Julian's complexities. Time slips away as the party swells, couples twirling, drinks clinking, laughter overflowing. I spend the next hour dodging questions about my interactions with Julian, the tension between us an unspoken topic of both hilarity and exasperation. But finally I spot him again, his gaze locking with mine across the room. And with each step I take towards him, I feel the weight of my earlier resolve. There's an underlying urge building within, a yearning to confront not only him, but also the remnants of doubt that linger like shadows in my heart. "Fancy seeing you here," I say, a teasing note curling my lips, yet the moment still crackles with unresolved conflict, as I find my feet planted firmly in front of Julian, who remains unfazed, yet somehow expectant. "Zara," he replies, his voice a low grounding force that threatens to pull me deeper into whatever tempest we share. "I was about to make a bold decision regarding tonight's festivities." "What's that?" I cross my arms, a defensive stance birthed from confusion. "I think we should leave." His gaze flickers toward the crowd before returning to my eyes, the softest shade of empathy billowing beneath. "Leave? You mean like as in sail into the farthest reaches of the cold and figure things out?" I arch an eyebrow, the razor-sharp confidence I feign, masking the quaking beneath. "Is that how you plan to reveal the truth?" "Truth." He smirks, the promise laced with mystery. "How about you join me on deck for some frosty air? I have some things I want to say that don't involve spectators." Before I can reply, Julian reaches for my hand, entwining his fingers with mine, and my body awakens, energy surging as if I'd just stepped into the sun. The cool breeze rushes toward us as we step outside, the howling wind growing fiercer, yet the warmth of his body beside mine overwhelms the chill. I'm abruptly reminded of our difference on this ship. While it feels alien to me, for him it feels like home, infused with his careful strategies, his machinations hidden under layers of charisma. "Julian," I begin tentatively, but he interrupts me, his expression flipping from playful to serious. "Zara, I care about your research. It's groundbreaking, something I believe the world can benefit from. But it's hard to watch someone so brilliant, so driven, extend their heart to everyone but yourself." His voice sharpens, becoming earnest. "I know you're ambitious, but do you actually want to be here? With me?" That question, met with a bracing gust of wind, leaves me off balance. I look out over the ice-laden sea, where the moonlight dances upon the surface, illuminating a sprawling universe of possibility. Do I want this? The journey? The man? I hesitate, grappling with the impact of his words. It's never been just about ambition. It's about legacy, purpose. I want to leave my mark. "Then let it be a shared journey, Zara." His voice deepens, each syllable like a gentle tug against the beauty of our surroundings. "Let me be part of it." The sincerity in his eyes ignites my longing, a truth I have been foolishly avoiding. Before I can lose my nerve, I close the gap and press my body against his, every ounce of intention flooding through my skin as our lips collide. The world around us fades, the air trembling with the storm of our desires, a dance of ice and fire. When we part, my breath quickens, and I catch a glimpse of determination carved into his features. "Do you know how intoxicating it is to see you fight for what you want? You're magnificent." I press my forehead against his, letting the wildness of my emotions, his words warring against my doubts, envelop me fully. "Then let's fight for it, together." And just like that, The silence draws us in, pressing us against the potency of everything that has yet to be said and felt. Nothing worth having comes easy, I remind myself, and with a rush of knowing, I acknowledge it, as challenging and exhilarating as frosted desires can be. It's not just about the legacy, it's about how we create our own stories alongside the ones we've always imagined. And where that leads, only time will tell. Chapter 55, Born to Stand Out. Is it really so hard to ask someone to own their choices? Julian's voice sliced through the clinking of glasses and hum of deep conversations, urging me to focus. He leaned back against the polished brass railing of the expedition ship's observation deck, his stillness betraying a tension simmering just beneath the surface. The sprawling expanse of Arctic ice stretched infinitely beyond him, white and oppressive, glimmering under the midday sun. I turned to face him, tightening my grip on the bar's cool surface. You act as if I've ever had the luxury of choice in this field. You might see it as manipulation, but for me, it's survival. A small, bitter laugh escaped him, deepening the shadows in his hazel eyes. He raked a hand through his dark hair, revealing just enough of his troubled thoughts to make me ache for clarity. Survival? This isn't the jungle, Zara. This is academia, where being smart matters, not just who you can step over to get ahead. Oh, spare me the lecture, I shot back, unable to contain the indignation welling beneath my skin. I am tired of skating on the fucking edge of other people's expectations, like some fragile ice crystal ready to splinter. This isn't just about you or the games you play. I jabbed a finger toward him, letting the frustration ignite. I have spent years clawing my way through this world of white papers and white coats. I'm done being seen as much less than I am. He folded his arms, irritation clouding his features as he shifted forward, closing the distance between us in ways that sparked both fury and longing. Then why did you let me in? Why spend the night being my shadow if you wanted to be my equal? Not everything's a power move, Julian, I shot back, but my resolve faltered at the flicker of his awareness within those stormy eyes that could either soothe or incite chaos. You should know better than anyone. I don't want to be merely your partner or your pupil. I've worked far too hard to allow myself to be put in a box. But as I spoke, I was aware of the thrumming pulse of longing tucking itself close behind my words. Julian had that effect. A complicated mix of desire and an almost instinctual challenge that dared me to rise. Despite all my confrontations, I couldn't shake the thrill of standing close to a man whose plans were as wild as the blizzards raging outside. I only ever wanted you to be seen, he murmured, his voice softening, almost vulnerable. And there it was, the statement layered with a dozen meanings, a double-edged sword aching for reckoning. But you can't step into the light while you're clinging to the shadows. I stepped back, heat rising in my cheeks. So, you think I need you to show me the way? I refuse to play your game. I'm not a discovery for you to hoard. I'll prove I'm more than just another name on your university's scoreboard. That's not how I see you. His eyes narrowed slightly, yet the flame of intensity remained, a dance of challenge and unyielding trust. Your ambition doesn't change the fact that you've been walking in my wake since the moment we embarked on this trip. Just then, a raucous laugh echoed across the deck, shattering our tense cocoon. It was Avery, my colleague and best friend, wading through a group of eager academics. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could draw your attention, we have a competition brewing. She thrust her arm toward the ship's promised starlit sky and added, and trust me, every last one of you will want to watch. 5 heads pivoted, eyes widening with intrigue. And just like that, an argument born of desire and frustration was cast aside to make room for unpredictability and adrenaline. I glanced back at Julian, my chest tight as I was torn between fury and laughter. What now? Seems like we're about to find out, he replied, a slight smile creeping into his expression, that brilliant, unabashed charisma of his flaring once more. Will you stop being so cocky for just 1 minute? I huffed, unable to suppress my own grin. I mean, do you really need to smile like that when I'm trying to make a point? His gaze lingered, a charged moment that conveyed unspoken promises. It's hard to be serious when I can see so much potential sparking in you. Potential, is that what we're calling it now? I switched my attention to Avery, whose infectious excitement radiated through the layer of competition in the air. We're doing this. We cannot miss a chance to prove ourselves on this ship, she bubbled, looping her arm through mine without waiting for my response. Plus, this is the chance for some serious bragging rights, and I know how you love to win. Julian followed as we made our way through the increasingly lively crowd toward the front of the ship, our earlier spat simmering in the backdrop. The thrill of gathering devotees for a competition stripped away my irritation and awakened the fierce fire within me. My heart raced, the experience transforming from confrontation to exhilarating challenge. A makeshift stage glimmered in the golden light of the late afternoon sun. "All right, people," Avery called, the authoritative tone already resonating deep within me as I made my way to the center, adrenaline surging. "We are about to host the most coveted intellectual competition this ship has ever seen." Friction crackled among the spectators, bursts of laughter and good-natured banter soaring from every corner. I felt Julian's presence simmering just behind me, a vibrant magnetism pulling me even closer to the heart of this gathering. "Each one of you will have 30 seconds to share your best concept for a research idea involving Antarctic biology." She paused for effect, allowing the crowd to pulse with anticipation, and the crowd will vote on their favorite. Moments passed in a whirl of anticipation and challenge. One by one, the contestants stepped forward to share their meticulously crafted ideas. As I watched them, the simmering tension began to boil between Julian and myself, highlighted by sly glances and barely suppressed smiles. He offered gentle, encouraging nudges, while my heart raced, desperate to prove myself. Then it was my turn. I stepped forward, locking eyes with Julian as a tidal wave of determination swept through my veins, a rush of electricity igniting my ambition. My proposal centers around the cultural implications of climate change on indigenous groups in the Antarctic, how traditions can— "Hold up, excuse me, Zara," Avery piped up, attempting to weave humor into the seriousness of the moment. "No academia jargon here. We want to hear how you plan to save the world in a way that even a walrus could understand." Laughter erupted, the tension breaking to make way for camaraderie. I corked an eyebrow at Julian, mischief gleaming in my eyes. "Fine, I will educate the walruses, but let me just say that love can conquer even the harshest conditions. We can innovate through unity, creating sustainable practices that emphasize long-term stewardship." The crowd erupted into applause. Even Julian's hands joined in, though I caught the slight rise of uncertainty in his expression. Once the applause ebbed, Julian met my gaze, his smile reflecting pride, yet underscored with an unexpected intensity. "Amazing. You have this ability. Enough gushing. You are a sly fox. Time to vote." Avery chimed in, heartily rallying the crowd for the final decision. Amid enthusiasm, the votes were tallied and counted. And predictably, I felt the familiar blend of nerves and excitement as the results were read aloud. Avery's voice rang out over the chatter. "Drum roll, please." I held my breath, glancing at Julian, whose gaze remained fixed upon me, weighty with admiration and intrigue. At that moment, I allowed the layers of our earlier argument to dissipate, momentarily setting aside my internal battle. And the winner of our academic showdown, Zara Dunbar. Cheers erupted, the wild joy flowing through me like an intoxicating breeze as I turned to absorb the celebration. Laughter mixed with shouts of congratulation, and the adrenaline surged through my veins like fire. Then, in the whirl of excitement, Julian stepped closer, his breath warm against my ear as he murmured, "You see? You were meant to stand out, Zara." In a heartbeat, I found myself spinning around, heat radiating from his voice. My mind faded to uncertainty as we stood mere inches apart, our earlier confrontation cast aside. An invisible barrier of unresolved tension electrified the air between us. "Well, look who finally says something profound," I replied, challenged by a flicker of playfulness in my heart. "Come on, A simple thank you would suffice, he teased, the glimmer of an impending kiss lying beneath our banter. Thank you, Julian, I murmured, then pushed him back with a laugh. But one thing, you might want to ease up on the condescension next time. His eyes glittered, a spark of playful defiance shining back at me. No promises. Our laughter mingled amidst the applause, voices blending into a symphonic undercurrent. Yet as the evening continued transforming, so did the understanding between us. The depths of our earlier argument, now filled with the thrill of victory, necessitated the urgency compounding in my heart, unfurling an undeniable connection that demanded to be explored. But small arguments were never enough to extinguish flames. I would have to show him and myself that the true battle was not solely for dominance, but for partnership. A recognition that our schemes, challenges, and plans could dance in unison just as easily as they could clash. The challenge had shifted, but the fire remained. Julian and I were both powerful forces fumbling in a world encased in ice, yet we were on the precipice of something undeniable, something worth acknowledging in the tumult of our emotions, complications, and ultimately, the romance thriving beneath. Care to celebrate your win? He asked, stepping so close that I could feel his heat radiating like a magnet. Only if you plan to keep up, Mr. Black, I replied playfully, knowing that the stakes had never felt higher. I promise not to let you down. As I slipped my hand into his, our connection simmering and volatile, I realized something crucial. Standing out hadn't simply been about the competition. It was about us, two forces entwined with purpose, adventure, and risk, igniting a journey that would continue to unravel in both exhilarating and unknown ways. Chapter 56. Near Miss. The crisp air bit at my skin as I stepped onto the deck of the Polar Star, the icy wind swirling around like a playful child, teasingly pulling at the edges of my jacket. With each gust, I felt the exhilarating reminder of my surroundings. Antarctica, a place marked by beauty and brutality, where the landscape was as unforgiving as the unresolved tension building between Julian and me. The soft, snow-dusted expanse stretched in every direction, and beneath those vast blue skies, I chased my ambitions, even as the weight of my heart tripped me up at every turn. Zara, Julian's deep voice sliced through the noise of the ship's engine, pulling me from my thoughts. I turned to see him striding toward me, determination radiating from him like heat from a furnace. The striking lines of his face were sharp against the backdrop of the breathtaking Antarctic scenery, igniting that familiar flutter deep within my chest. We had been more friends than I could admit, concerning myself as navigation rather than destination. But lately, with the tension between us mounting, a raw, palpable force, it had become harder to deny what was brewing just beneath the surface. Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost, he teased, but there was a sharpness in his tone I couldn't overlook. Or maybe a hammerhead shark, I shot back, waving my arms to illustrate my current state of existential dread. The expedition had revealed not only breathtaking glaciers, but cracks in my meticulously curated life. But it's nothing. I'm fine. My voice faltered a bit, betraying my lie. Fine? His eyebrows knitted together in disbelief, creating little shadows on his forehead. You don't look fine. You look... He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Distracted, like you can't handle this place. Or maybe, this. His gaze flickered down to the thick folder of research notes clutched tightly in my hands. He knew me too well. Maybe you should try focusing on your own issues, I shot back, the words slicing through the air between us like ice shards. Not everyone is after some grand revelation of the self. Some of us are here to work. Work? He incredulously laughed, the sound rich and warm, breaking the tension like a flare in the dark. It seems to me that every time I turn around, you're dodging my conversations. What's the matter? Is it too much to handle? Afraid of what we might discover? I'm not dodging anything, Julian, I snapped, clenching my jaw. You've got your own secrets, so let's not act like you're the arbiter of honesty. His eyes turned stormy, the predatory glimmer igniting. You think I'm keeping something from you? Don't you? I took a step forward, emboldened by my anger, even as my heart raced at the pulsing chemistry thrumming between us. What's the deal with your fascination? This isn't an apology tour. You clearly want something. What? Your priorities are as clear as the ice surrounding us. Before he could respond, a loud bang echoed from the cargo hold. It reverberated through the air like a clap of thunder. Instantly, we both swung toward the noise, instinct overriding conflict. "Julian!" I shouted, panic seizing my throat as I sprinted toward the ship's bow. The crew had gathered there, faces taut with fear. "What happened?" "An avalanche just hit the ridge," one of the crew members exclaimed, fear-stricken eyes wide as saucers. "We need to secure the cargo. It could destabilize the whole ship." My stomach dropped. "We need to get everyone to safety," I yelled, turning back to Julian, who stood fixed at the edge, assessing the danger with that familiar, watchful gaze. "What are you waiting for?" He was already moving, powerful strides melding into action. "You're not going out there," he snapped, stress underlying his quickness. I grasped at any sense of reason. My irritation flared. "What do you mean I'm not going? If you think I will stand back and let whatever's about to happen take place—" "You're not qualified," he interrupted, his voice carrying the authority that both angered and beckoned me. "You don't know the risks, Zara." "I may not be a mountain climber, but I'm not helpless either," I shot back, the fight in me surging as adrenaline coursed through my veins. "I'm not waiting around to be a damsel in distress." "You're being reckless," he said, exasperation coloring his words. A volley of shouts erupted around us, chaos blooming like a wildflower in adversity. A tight coil of tension clenched my gut momentarily, but I wasn't about to let fear dictate my future. I needed to be proactive, to grapple with the uncontrollable. "Julian, we have to do this together," I urged, gripping the hem of his sleeve, my gaze locked on his. "Now isn't the time for your protective instincts to put me in a corner. We don't have that luxury." He exhaled slowly, considering me, our connection deepening with each heartbeat. There was something in my resolve that stirred him too, and in the blink of an eye, he nodded, that quicksilver charisma sharpening into focus. "All right," he said, and a surge of relief washed through me. "But you go with Dave, stay close and listen to him." I bit my lip, struggling to keep the surge of emotion at bay. "Just say you trust me." "Do you think I'd be allowing you to join if I didn't?" His lips curled in a slight smirk, brushing against the constraints of stress, showing me a glimpse of the man I admired. As we roared into action, the collective energy of the crew pushing us forward cast the initial rift in our conversation aside. Julian and I moved like two halves of a whole, the balance of our differences catching fire, my ambition fueled by his support. We were nothing if not determined to face the tempest before us. Outside, the cold air was a blustery slap, but I edged closer to Julian, where warmth radiated from an intensity I couldn't comprehend. I felt the primal thrill beneath all the chaos, an electric connection shooting through. Everything in me thrummed with purpose. "Go with Dave," Julian insisted, guiding me back toward the safety of the ship's entrance as the roar of crunching ice echoed like the heartbeat of something alive and massive. "We'll handle this." A chill skated along my spine, but I tightened my hold on the moment. "And you promise to come back?" "Always." His voice was gravelly, and the cue in his promise left its mark on my heart, hastening its rhythm. Before I could respond, an ominous rumble rolled through the ship, interrupting everything. I surprised myself by dashing past him, veering toward the sound. "Zara, get back here." Julian's voice was barely discernible amidst the growing crash of ice and snow, but I couldn't stop the surge of courage, and then it hit. The air turned into chaos. Wind, ice, shouts, but with the weight of the moment pushing me forward, I couldn't think, only react. I darted around a cluster of crates, merrily avoiding the flurry of snow and slush that poured in from the deck as I spotted Dave trying to maneuver an elderly male passenger to safety. "Hey, over here," I shouted, waving to grab his attention. Everything turned to slow motion when I felt a jagged edge of ice slide underfoot. I tripped, but held on, my heart racing with sheer adrenaline. Just as I watched the edge of the ship buckle, Julian came barreling past me. "Zara, stay back." But I'd already moved ahead. "Get him out," I called to Dave, my voice straining against the wild gust of wind. "I can hold it." "Do not be a hero," Julian screamed, though his features told me he could feel the same reckless stir within him that I was experiencing. And as I rushed to stabilize the structure of shifting ice, the ship groaned dangerously under the stress. I glanced back, locking eyes with Julian as the world turned kaleidoscopic around us. "Zara, please." The next moment, the anchoring ice cracked. I mistimed my balance, and before I could comprehend the threat, I plummeted. The icy grip of panic almost swallowed me whole. But then, I felt the warmth of his hands encircle my wrist, the desperate strength latching onto me. "Zara!" He yanked me from the edge, falling back alongside me, raw urgency igniting everything in its path. As we tumbled together, I was enveloped in his heat, my heart colliding with his in a thundering crescendo. The world fell silent for a heartbeat, his breaths mingling with mine. And then there was laughter. Laughter in the middle of madness, light blooming despite the storm as he pulled me up from the icy ground. "I thought I'd just lost you." Julian's voice cracked lightly through the mix of fear and relief. And suddenly, the swell of everything came crashing down on us. "Not a chance. You have a responsibility here, you know." With every word I spoke, it was like clarity burst forth, revealing the way back to each other amidst the wreckage. His hand found my chin, tilting it towards him. "You think you were the only one on duty?" And with the storm swirling around us, keeping us forever anchored in that place where everything else melted away, I leaned in, sealing the promise of my own integrity against the weight of our longing. It ignited. The world faded, shifting from peril to tranquil beyond everything else. The fire between us exploded in an intertwining harmony as we finally broke through. In that tumultuous moment, as the icy breeze whipped around us, I realized that nothing worth having was easy. The embrace of danger and desire surged like a tidal wave, shattering my conflicting fears into something ignitable, something beautifully unruly. In the swirling storm of our emotions, we might have feared we would get lost, but I needed to learn. All those tightly wound ambitions were worth this dance of chaos, reckless as it felt. I had a partner capable of steadying even my wildest uncertainty. And for the first time, the question I never knew existed bubbled to the forefront. Could love really conquer all? "Zara," Julian whispered, shifting his lips closer to mine, our breath mingling like frost on a window pane. "We can't let anything come between us again." "Not just now," I replied, smiling even as the tempest raged around us. "We have a world to explore. Together," he said, and as I closed the gap between us, I knew we were just at the beginning of what could encompass us. Love could ignite in the coldest places, a beacon for us to follow as we navigated the dark. In that infinite thrumming moment, I thought, yes, together is the only way forward. Chapter 57, Passionate Debates. The Antarctic wind howled like a wounded beast as I stood at the deck's edge, facing the icy expanse. Each gust wrapped around me, biting at my cheeks, invigorating my senses in a way that felt almost euphoric. Icebergs loomed like ghostly sentinels, towering and still, their surfaces glistening in the weak sunlight that struggled to illuminate the endless white. I scrambled to tighten my scarf, a futile attempt to shield myself from the chill, but the cold was nothing compared to the tempest brewing in my heart at the thought of Julian. Unbeknownst to me, he watched from behind the glass wall of the observation lounge, his tall frame framed in dark wool that highlighted the powerful lines of his shoulders, a stark contrast against the all-white backdrop. I could feel the intensity of his gaze, even through the ice-coated panes. My fingers absently traced the outline of the ship's railing, feeling its cold hardness as I mentally prepared myself for the inevitable clash. "Zara." Julian stepped out onto the deck, the echo of his voice swallowed by the wind. He looked good, irrevocably good, intense, mysterious, and achingly beautiful as he strode toward me, cutting through the cold with an unyielding energy. You're isolating yourself. I was enjoying the view, I replied, arching an eyebrow at his presumption. Not everyone needs company to appreciate nature. He scoffed, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead, his dark eyes roiling with irritation and intrigue. You're not fooling anyone. Hiding up here only makes you more intriguing. I turned my back to the horizon, selecting my words carefully. Intriguing? Is that your word for avoiding emotional confrontation? Emotional confrontation? Really? He stepped closer, his voice dropping into a deep, teasing lilt. You're not avoiding me, are you? I wouldn't think you'd run from a challenge. Only challenges that involve your insufferable charm, I bantered, crossing my arms defiantly. My heart thrummed with an electric pulse. At that moment, alone on the deck, I was both exhilarated and terrified. Insufferable? His smile widened, qualifying him as the devil in this frozen hell. You've never called me that before, with such vigor. The air crackled between us, an invisible tether of chemistry arching with each deliberate breath. His confidence was intoxicating, but buried beneath my admiration lay a thread of jealousy woven tightly through my heart. His ability to navigate the complexities of this journey, while I felt perpetually adrift. You don't know how to take a hint, do you, Julian? I raised my chin defiantly, but in that moment, all I wanted was for him to break through my defenses. But he was relentless, stepping even closer. And you don't know how to admit you're drawn to me, not just for the research, Zara. I'm drawn to ideas, Julian, not people who sabotage their rivals. The words slipped free, charged with accusation. What happened in the shadows of our ambitions threatened to tangentially encircle us like the cold horizon that enveloped the ship. He recoiled slightly, as if the chill of my words cut deeper. You think I haven't weighed the consequences? My family? He stumbled, an unease rolling through him as he fought to articulate his truth. My family needs this. I did what was necessary. Necessary? I spat, incredulous. Sabotage is never necessary, Julian. It's an affront to your intellect, your integrity. My heart raced as I unfolded all the tangled emotions tied to those decisions. This was no longer a mere argument about ethics. It was a declaration of where we stood on the precipice of ambition and love. And then we were silent, our breaths visible in puffs of cloud against the icy air. The weight of our arguments hung between us, thick and heavy, like the freezing fog that enveloped the ship. Yet beneath the frigid exterior churned a heat that could shatter any cold barrier. Do you think I want this? His voice finally broke through the silence, raw with vulnerability. This burden, the constant demands? Julian's intensity bore into me as if searching for something beyond my walls. I've spent years plotting, biding my time, waiting for you, Zara. Waiting for me? The confusion in my mind warred with a flicker of warmth that rippled through my chest. To what end? To serve your grand narrative? Because I believe in you, in what we can achieve together. He gestured wildly, pacing with palpable energy. You're my equal, don't you see that? You belong in this world, with me. I couldn't fathom the depth of his belief. My ambition was a cocoon I wove around myself, a protection I desperately clung to. It was the one thing that felt right, that felt wholly mine. And if I can't reconcile that world with whatever this is between us, I'm not built for romantic entanglement, Julian. Entanglement? He mused, a teasing smile resurfacing, slicing through the tension like a laser beam. That sounds more like a dare than a stipulation. Is that what you want then? I shot back, refusing to let him off the hook. An entertaining physical endeavor until we're both spent? Julian's eyes sparkled, a hint of mischief against his earnestness. Maybe I want more than just physicality. Maybe I want the entire package. And what's in that package? A bountiful life together? Grand families? I am not like you, Julian. My identity has never relied on frivolous whims. I put space between us, my heart wrestling with a familiar fear. Frivolity. He caught my wrist gently, but his grip was unyielding. Zara, let's be honest. You can't keep pretending that you don't feel this connection. I am not pretending, I retorted, mirroring his tenacity, the fire flaring in my chest. But I can't. I won't. Why not? His voice dropped to a whisper, his breath warm against the chill that surrounded us. Why not allow yourself what you really want? The way he said it, intimate, sincere, a promise threaded through his pitch, broke through my defenses. Maybe this was more than an argument. Maybe it was a declaration waiting to unravel. My voice trembled. Tears threatened to spill, but I pushed through, fueled by stubborn courage. I want to work hard, to make a name for myself. It's all I've ever wanted. It doesn't have to be just that. His tone was steady, persuasive. You can have your name etched in history alongside your heart open to love. Just look at what you've accomplished alone. Imagine what we could create together. And there it was, the proposal of a partnership steeped in possibility, shimmering brighter than the ice surrounding us. I could feel the walls crumbling. What makes you so sure it wouldn't hurt? Because, he whispered, a gentle hand brushing my cheek. It's already hurting both of us. We stood there, suspended, between the desire to retreat to safety and the even greater pull of connection. The very silence, screaming the climax of our argument. Then why don't you admit that you want me? His voice trembled, a raw edge that cut through the distance. His fingers left my skin, yet the absence burned like an unfulfilled promise. And suddenly, I was moving before my own mind could protest, closing the distance between us, feeling the gravity of his presence drawing me in like a tidal wave. Our lips collided, the cold air between us igniting into molten heat, a surge of passion and resentment spiraling wildly. As we melted against one another, I tasted the salty tang of the ocean on his lips, an invitation to forsake hesitation. My heart raced, a wild creature freed from its cage, while his hands found their home at my waist, pulling me tightly. The kiss deepened, turning our heated debate into something far more intimate and carnal. The storm outside was nothing compared to the tempest brewing between us. Zara, Julian murmured against my mouth, a mix of desire and urgency. No more fighting. What now? I asked breathlessly, forgetting the argument entirely, my ambition paling in comparison to the urgency of our connection. Now? He reached behind me, propelling me against the railing, his breath warm against my neck as he inhaled deeply. Now I focus on showing you how much I want you. And just like that, everything shifted, like the tectonic plates of our resolve. Everything suddenly felt thrillingly unstable, yet exhilarating. I'll show you, he continued, unabashed subtext bright in his eyes, how to embrace what you really desire. As the wind whipped around us, I could no longer tell what was more intoxicating, the icy Antarctic air brushing against us, or the heated closeness of our bodies, the pull of fate relentless. Let's forget about the consequences, I said, the words tumbling out as reckless as the frost cascading off the nearby icebergs. Let's get caught in each other. Caught? His laugh was low and dark, a promise crackling like fire in the frosty air. I don't just catch, I consume. With that declaration, our world narrowed to a single point. The frigid landscape, the reality of everything at stake, faded into the background. Our lives might have been on the edge of danger, but amidst the chaos, it was time to embrace the storm of our desires, together. And so, wrapped in our heated intimacy, in the face of all that lay ahead, I took a leap, choosing to surrender not just to passion, but to the unexpected bond we were forging in the icy depths of this world we both yearned to conquer. Then let's see how far this can take us, I breathed against his lips. And with the wind howling as though cheering us on, we stepped boldly into the fevered night of intertwined dreams and desires, hearts racing wildly for what lay ahead. Chapter 58. Crisis of Trust. The early morning sun cast a cold glow through the frost-crusted windows of the ship's galley, illuminating the narrow space where I stood, wedged between stainless steel counters and the faint scent of freshly brewed coffee. My fingers wrapped around a delicate porcelain cup, the steaming liquid vibrant against the pallid backdrop of ice outside. I couldn't help but admire how the world beyond our confines was frozen in perpetual stillness, much like my own heart felt at present. "Is that coffee for everyone or just the secret keeper?" A playful voice chimed in behind me, breaking the stillness. I turned to see Lena, my closest friend on this expedition, leaning casually against the doorframe with a teasing grin. Her dark curls framed a face that radiated warmth, the solid contrast to my icy demeanor. "It's for everyone, but you're welcome to partake," I replied. My thoughts were tangled, the brewing storm in my mind overshadowing the sunlit room. Lena stepped closer, her demeanor shifting from playful to inquisitive. "You've been distant lately, Zara. Are you all right?" "Just a lot on my plate," I said, refocusing on the coffee, trying to mask my discomfort with the mundane task of pouring. In truth, the emotional weight felt more like a boulder than the trivial fuss over breakfast. "I distinctly remember you saying you'd never let someone come between you and your ambitions," she replied, eyebrow raised. "In fact, whole icebergs wouldn't stand a chance." She nudged me gently with her elbow, infusing a little light into my somber mood. Things change. I tried for a light tone, but the quiver in my voice betrayed me. "Ah, love maladies, I presume? Julian has you all knotted up inside?" The thought of Julian sent a jolt through my system, a cocktail of warmth and apprehension. Just the night before, we had shared everything: intimacy, laughter, revealing fragments of ourselves that I didn't know we were prepared to share. But when dawn illuminated our wild night, along with all the hidden shadows he carried, doubt wrapped around my heart like the Antarctic wind outside. "Not love exactly," I replied, choosing my words with care. "It's more complicated. There are things about him I'm struggling to reconcile." "Oh, like his penchant for being overly secretive and mysteriously charming?" Lena's voice was thick with sarcasm. "I didn't sign up for a thriller novel, Lena. I need to know that I can trust him, yet—" I hesitated, the quiet judgment in her eyes revealing the struggle playing out within me. "What if he's been keeping something from me?" "Zara," she started gently, "trust is the foundation of everything. Without that, you're just, rudderless in a storm." She moved closer, lowering her voice. "What do you know about him? Really?" I took a deep breath, searching for the right words to capture the storm brewing in my chest. "He has these moments when he opens up, and I can see him, the real him. But then there are these gaps, these evasions that strike me. It's all so conflicting." The coffee cup slid from my hand, clattering onto the counter, spilling a little on the countertop. The sound echoed in the silence between us, a reminder of my own chaos. Lena's brow furrowed with concern. "Zara, secrets don't just fade, they fester. If there's something dangerous lurking, you have to address it." Just then, Julian entered the galley, his presence commanding and magnetic. The tension in the room shifted palpably, even the air felt charged. He was dressed in his casual but tailored attire, exuding an effortless elegance that drew attention. He caught me in a glance that held a myriad of unsaid words. "Morning, ladies," he greeted, as if he were soaking in sunlight, his smooth tone bringing heat to the cool room. "Speaking of darkness and sunshine," Lena smirked, raising an eyebrow at me before feigning interest in a stack of pastries. Julian moved closer, a playful glint in his eyes. "You've misplaced your coffee, Zara, a vivid potion in need of careful wielding." "Funny you mention potions," I replied with a half-smile, hoping it masked the turmoil brewing beneath. "You might have a few of your own hiding in that hypnotic charm." "Well, what can I say?" He leaned against the counter, surveying both of us with composed amusement. "I keep some secrets, too." His laughter held a genuine lightness, but that sliver of tension between us crackled the air. I couldn't shake the sensation of being caught in a web, one I wasn't sure if I wanted to escape or navigate deeper into. "Are you two scheming against me?" he teased. "Or was it just a typical girl talk?" Monetary investments in trust fall, perhaps, Lena quipped, puncturing the air with a dramatic flair. You two are inscribed in a novel for which I haven't been given the script, Julian replied with a smirk, his gaze locking onto mine. The storyline feels abruptly surreal. Every syllable delivered held a weight, and I suddenly felt suffocated by the knowledge I had yet to share. Julian, let's talk about what's really going on between us, I suggested, feeling my heart leap with the unexpected urgency of it. His expression shifted slightly, intrigue intertwining with caution. And what is that exactly? I need to understand your intentions, I said, trying to maintain the steadiness in my voice. I know this is more than just a passing thrill for you, isn't it? He leaned closer, the warmth of his body emanating just inches from mine, the rich scent of sandalwood and something uniquely his enveloping me. What do you fear, Zara? His words were measured, probing without being confrontational. Am I not worthy of your trust? Trust is earned, I countered, heat creeping into my cheeks. The intensity of his gaze bore down upon me, igniting a feeling I couldn't quite put into words. And do you doubt mine? He asked, the careful poise of a man skilled at persuasion. Trust is built on transparency and unfurling like petals in the sun. Then why do I feel like there are thorns hidden underneath? I challenged, trying to sound calm, but my heart raced. What if I told you that every move I've made is an endeavor rooted in a deeper purpose? His eyes bore into mine, honest and penetrating. I know what I want. Then prove it. The challenge slipped from my lips before I could second guess. His silence hung between us, thick and deliciously tender. When he finally spoke, his voice was soaked in gravity. What if I dared to show you just how hard I'm willing to fight for you? Oh, I breathed, our proximity tightening like a noose around my heart. Dinner tonight, he suggested, a twinkle returning to his eyes. Just you and me. I'll pull the curtain back on my true intentions. His weight shifted imperceptibly, suggesting both promise and risk. Fine, but you'd better prepare for the impending chaos, I challenged, my pulse racing. Chaos is merely an opportunity for deeper connection, don't you think? He smiled, a mischievous glint sparking in his gaze, and in that moment, a bubble of tension snapped, sending jolts of chemistry crashing through the air. Lena coughed theatrically, interrupting our electric standoff. Just don't forget our stakes are high, Julian. We don't just play with epic dinners, but with trust levels too. Julian smirked at her. Noted, but trust will have to wait. The inevitable storm tugs at us. Stepping away, I suddenly felt dizzy. The air felt heavier, charged with so much potential that it was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. I guess we'll see if you're as good as your word, I challenged playfully. Dinner, Zara, and then who knows? He moved to the door, his silhouette framed against the cold light of day, but before he left he paused, glancing back. Trust is a terrifying creature, don't underestimate its power, much like love. As he exited, I caught Lena's gaze. So, this is the outlook, she murmured quietly. What's the plan? A strategic retreat, I replied, though my heart still drummed a heavy beat in my chest. But there's more hanging in the balance. Now that's the Zara I remember, Lena laughed. But just remember, the heart must choose wisely, and this is no academic paper. I couldn't ignore the urgency, the thrilling potential of unraveling everything Julian kept hidden. Yet even knowing that, I couldn't help but feel the shadows creeping in, straining against the edges of our connection. Maybe we should toast before dinner, Lena added mischievously. To the trust that still stands, balmy and unessential, and best wishes for disaster. Coming right up, I conceded, lifting a cup as a toast and allowing the dark waves of mystery and warmth to wash over me. Tonight, everything would possibly change. But with all that was at stake, would we unravel into forgiveness or plunge into the chaos waiting for us, an icy tempest on the edge of the world? Chapter 59. The Truth of Desire. I adjusted the collar of my sweater as I stood in the sleek observation lounge of the Midnight Star. the expedition ship rocking slightly against the icy swell of the Antarctic Sea. A chill crept in through the large glass panes that surrounded us, framing the gray twilight outside. The tempestuous weather mirrored the tensions brewing within. Sheets of snow swirled beyond the glass, obscuring the horizon, just as my thoughts coiled around my heart, disquieting and tumultuous. "Zara, have you seen my scarf?" The exuberant voice of my friend Lena cut through the raw air like a shard of light. She rushed up, her arms flailing with urgency. "It's on the couch," I replied, barely looking at her, my mind still entangled in the complexities of the research I had been immersed in. The faint fragrance of her citrusy shampoo wafted past, tinged with the saltiness of the sea air. "You should have checked there first." Lena rolled her eyes, rummaging through the cushions. "You know you're no fun when you're deep in thought. How do you expect to enjoy this expedition if you're too busy analyzing rocks?" "Perhaps if I ignore the rocks to play fun, I won't find the missing link between human migration patterns and the Daishin paradigm," I countered, unable to suppress a smile. It was the familiar dance of our friendship, an ebb and flow that felt like home. "What do you mean fun? We're spending the night in one of the most beautiful places on Earth." She leaned toward the window, her breath fogging the glass before her hands danced over the surface as the weather intensified. "Look at that storm. Hurricane winds and swirling snow. Tell me that isn't a little thrilling." "I guess," I sighed, my heart already drifting elsewhere. My eyes, despite myself, flicked to the flickering shadow of Julian pacing in the corner of the lounge, a lion unable to roar in the stillness of our trapped private world. Lena's laughter rang out, dissolving the tension. "Come on, Zara, spill. What's going on between you and the brooding one?" I forced a laugh, but it was brittle. "You mean the one who's given me more headaches than clarity? That one?" "The same," she pressed, her hazel eyes widening with enthusiasm. "You two have been trading looks that could set off a fireworks show. You should see it from the outside." "I'm too busy to notice," I quipped, but even I could hear the uncertainty in my voice. Too busy? Or too scared? Lena's tone had shifted, the teasing replaced with genuine curiosity. My heart sank. I could feel the weight of her scrutiny. "What are you insinuating?" I found myself defensive. "Nothing, just, it's the way he looks at you. Like you're the only person in this vast icy world." She leaned closer, conspiratorial. "You know what that means, right?" "Or he's just hungry for research data," I retorted, though my words held more bite than I intended. With every passing minute, the intensity between us grew suffocating, a friction I couldn't ignore. I turned to the window, just as the snowstorm crescendoed, the white curtain of flakes spinning wildly outside. "He's powerful, too powerful." "And you're not?" Lena threw back, arching an eyebrow. "Don't underestimate your strength, Zara. You contribute more than you realize." "You make it sound like I'm some sort of gladiator," I quipped. But the wryness only masked the knot of fear tightening in my chest. "This expedition is about showing them I can stand on my own without him." "Then get out of your head," Lena exclaimed. "He's waiting for you, and if he's anything like you say, you'll need to grab him now, before this icy world swallows your resolve." "Why, so I can lose my focus?" A sarcastic edge slipped into my tone. "Maybe I'm better off at a distance." There was a moment of silence, taut with unspoken words and every twist of emotion that had been building up over the last few weeks. I caught a glimpse of Julian again. He stood alone, a solitary figure against the chaos. My heart clenched. Before I could respond, the lounge door swung open, swamping the room with the chilled scent of ice and salt, and the solid presence of Julian stepped in. He exuded an air of confidence that held both power and danger in his gaze. "Zara, we need to talk," he said, his voice steady yet thick with undercurrents. My breath hitched. "About what?" A simmering silence fell. The tension thickened, palpable. Even Lena sensed it, slowly retreating to the far side of the lounge. Without waiting, Julian stepped closer, his intensity focusing like beams of light. Perhaps about the fact that you seem too content to drift while I remain tethered here, waiting. I'd like to know where you fit in this expedition beyond your research. A tethered dove doesn't sing, Julian. I'm not here for your amusement. I shot back, summoning a strength I felt waning. He leaned in, a touch too close, the energy crackling like a storm about to break. This isn't about amusement. It's about understanding what's at stake. What's at stake? My voice rose acutely, the anguish lodged in my chest echoing through the calm of the ship. All you see is ambition. You don't speak of my heart. Your heart? You don't even know how to define it. His words slapped at the air. Do you think I'm just going to let you drown in your aspirations? As hot words flew between us, the sound of the wind howling outside enveloped our raging emotions. I stepped back at his accusation before I caught the frustrated tremor in his jaw. You think ambition is my only passion? Your eyes light up over theories and datasets, not over me. He shifted, as if weighing each word carefully, but the tension coiled tighter. Who says you can't occupy both my ambition and my heart? I bit back. The winds howled again, a chaotic symphony accentuating the fire crackling between us. Is that even possible? His voice dipped, curiosity tinged with doubt. Why wouldn't it be? But even as I spoke, my heart raced at the flicker of hope in his eyes. Deep down, I was terrified he'd vanish just as quickly if he wasn't convinced of my affection. The stakes felt deadly high, perched on the precipice of revelation. A flicker of silent understanding passed between us. You're afraid, he stated, the storm reflecting back in his gaze. Maybe I am, I admitted, my voice softer, as if letting that truth set the room ablaze. But you are too. Silence washed over us, the world outside blurring into a storm of white. He took a step closer, closing the gap of uncertainty that hummed between us like an engraved promise. I want you to take a risk, he murmured, his voice breaking from its previous harshness, now dripping with something I could only define as yearning. That's the only way we can know. My heart fluttered, an involuntary response to the brewing storm of emotions lurking beneath the surface. What if I fall? What if you're caught in the depths of the ice instead of your demons? His brow furrowed, urgency shining through. What do you desire, Zara? Through the veil of thickening snow, the world felt impossibly small around us, and I released a breath I hadn't been aware I was holding. My thoughts spiraled. Maybe Lena was right. Maybe it was time to seize what I wanted. The distant potential between ambition and love felt within reach, yet so achingly far. With a swirling rush, I moved to him, our body heat igniting the cold, fading air around us. I desire you, I confessed, hardly louder than a whisper, engulfed in a contradiction of vulnerability and fierce need. His eyes blazed with ferocity, and the sudden break between our skin dissolved into an electric embrace. With each collision of our bodies, a fierce passion ignited, shattering the chains that had kept us apart. For all the chaos of the storm outside, for all the darkness clouding our live within that moment, we became a vortex. My hands threaded through his hair as his arms circled tight around my waist, pulling me impossibly closer. This is what you want? He murmured against my lips, a challenge masked as a question. Yes, I breathed, wrapping my legs around his waist as he lifted me, feeling the raw desperation of locked passion fighting to break free. Every last piece of you. As the winds roared, our world grew wild, thick with heat, and the tempest of unhinged emotion. Every touch unraveling seams I didn't know existed. The ship swayed beneath us, but inside the confines of that heated storm, we burned together. The weight of ambition and desire intertwined, forging something astoundingly real, something worth perfuming the water and air, forfeited yet tentative, but startlingly alive. I'll never let you drown, Zara, he rasped, words rushing out like the tide. Not in ambition, not in love, I promise. In that frozen moment, lifted from everything else, it felt as if we stood on the very edge of the world, tethered, unraveled, set free. Chapter 60. Late Night Confessions. Do you even know how to play? Julian leaned back against the cool granite of the bar top, a teasing smirk dancing across his lips as he gestured to the scattered deck of cards between us. There was something about the flickering overhead lights reflecting off the ice-smooth surface that felt deliciously intimate. The snowstorm outside howled with the same intensity as the tempest stirring within me, a swirling mix of excitement and vulnerability. Of course I know how to play, I retorted, trying to mask my apprehension with playful defiance. I just prefer the stakes to be higher than a simple round of cards. I flipped over a card with an exaggerated flourish, skillfully hiding my uncertainty. The hand I'd been dealt lay before me, a gamble woven with uncertainty. Is that so? He leaned closer, his gaze locking onto mine with a brilliance that sent a shallow current down my spine. And what's your gamble tonight, Zara? The air turned electric, thick with an intensity that pressed against my skin like the ice-laden wind outside. The ship rocked gently against the waves, the ambient creaking a stark contrast to the storm of unsaid words swirling between us. Maybe I'm betting on a different kind of connection, I replied, almost breathlessly, letting my voice drop a note. There it was, the fragile acknowledgement of something deeper peeking through the banter. I had spent too many nights tightening my grasp on my independence, wary of what it meant to let someone in. But there was a part of me, raw and unguarded, that wanted to explore this connection in ways I had yet to admit. He chuckled, the sound rich and warm, like dark chocolate in front of the fireplace. Yet I could sense a flicker of something deeper in his eyes. Was it frustration? Desire? Perhaps both. Well, this is a risky game, he said eventually, pulling a card from his own hand with deliberate slowness, showing me the ace of hearts, his silent challenge laid bare. What's your move? Before I could answer, Fiona burst into the lounge, her laughter ringing clear and bright, shattering the tension. You two are ridiculous, she teased, her African heritage beautifully adorned in rich hues of Ankara fabric, adorned with a matching head wrap that framed her face like a crown. Can I join this round of poker? Or will I get in the way of your intense connection? I rolled my eyes, a reluctant smile breaking through. Good timing, Fee. I could use someone to take the heat off. Is it getting too hot in here? She inquired, feigning innocence as she draped herself across a plush chair, her long legs crossing effortlessly. I knew I smelled jealousy earlier, and here I thought cards were the only thing up for grabs. That's insightful, even for you. Julian leaned in with that infectious smile, his relaxed posture radiating confidence, perhaps just enough to keep me on guard. But if you really want to know, it's more like a game of chess, not poker. Zara's protecting her queen. Aren't we all trying to protect our queens around here? Fiona quipped, her laughter dousing whatever flickering flames had ignited between us. I caught Julian's eyes, reading something more profound than amusement in them. It felt like simmering tension, threaded with unacknowledged desires. It both thrilled and terrified me. Fine then, let's make this game one worthy of a queen, I said suddenly, the words rolling off my tongue before I could stop myself, emboldened by the drama of the moment. Fiona, you can deal. How about a little wager? Julian met my challenge with narrowed eyes that twinkled with interest. And what do you propose we wager? He asked, crossing his arms as if preparing for a duel. If I win, I declared, glancing between Julian and Fiona with a devil-may-care grin. You both must disclose your deepest secret. Fiona gasped, mock horror plastered on her face. Certainly not. I'm not about to expose my private life to these. Oh, please, Julian scoffed. It's not like your life is complex enough to warrant a scandal. You really want the chance to keep on your soapbox about romance, or are you willing to share? I'll have you know, Fiona began, passionately waving her hands before they fell to the cards in defeat. Still, what do I get if I win? If you win, I replied, savoring the moment as I draped an arm casually over the back of my chair. You get to auction off the details of my next expedition. And don't think for a second I won't plant myself right in front of you for maximum embarrassment. Julian chuckled, leaning forward as the game began, fingers shuffling and laughter ringing through the icy expanse of the ship. But as soon as we began, I felt the specter of doubt creep in again. The stakes felt too high. This was more than just a game. It was a glimpse into the delicate layer of our souls, a moment curating unexpressed feelings. Tension curled around me like tendrils of lingering smoke, daring me to breathe too deeply. With each hand, I lost myself further, buoyed by the giddy laughter flickering between us like electrical sparks. But Julian's playful proximity remained an unsettling reminder of the fire we hadn't yet embraced. As the game continued, I caught glimpses of Julian's expressions. His protectiveness turned almost palpable as he would steal glances even beyond the table while I tossed witty remarks Fiona's way. I felt fierce about showcasing both my intellect and humor, but a knot of apprehension crept back in when he was utterly still and silent. Those moments straddled a precarious line between mirth and something darker. "Do you think this storm's going to disrupt tomorrow's outing?" Fiona asked, flipping her card down with a scowl after losing yet another round. "Because I have zero interest in getting snowed in with your melodramatic shenanigans for the next 24 hours. Julian glanced out the panoramic window, his expression shifting water-like as he studied the swirling snowflakes against the inky night sky. "Not without consequence, Fee," he murmured, his rich voice threading tension through the air. "But we can always improvise, as long as you don't mind desperate measures." He shot me a sidelong glance, and in that moment, I felt like the reason for his unrestrained optimism. "What exactly do you mean?" I asked, a bite of curiosity edged with trepidation as I attempted to dissect his enigmatic nature. "Remember when I said the curtain would fall upon this journey?" he said, the playful spark fading into something darker. "If tomorrow we are confined by the storm, I suggest we make use of this cabin and each other for educational purposes." Fiona looked back and forth between us, her eyes wide with amusement. "Are you two finally going to confess that you both have been silently raging against your own chemistry? Because if that's the case, I need a front row seat." Heart pounding, I held Julian's gaze as we danced along that precipice, risking all for a deeper understanding. "It's a tempest here. And outside," he interrupted softly. "But perhaps it's the chaos we need." I hesitated, suddenly aware of the magnitude of his words. "Julian, you know I'm not here to build a castle of loose ends." "Neither am I," he insisted, shifting closer, one hand placing itself deliberately on mine. "What I'm suggesting is simple. If you let the storm stir within, together we can make something unpredictable and beautiful." At that moment, the air shifted again, wrapping around us with tenderness that felt both frightening and exhilarating. With every minute spent in contemplation of Julian's intentions, my heart sank deeper into the possibility of loss. "Deal?" he asked, holding my gaze steady as a challenge lay unfurling between us. I could feel something crackling, hear a whisper coiling in the space surrounding us. "Your stakes, your choice." Fiona moaned dramatically, tossing her head back in exasperation. "Ugh, let's just make out already. Talk is tedious." She threw her cards aside, the carefree chaos furnishing the atmosphere even as it chipped away at my capacity for reason. I shot her an incredulous look. "You're supposed to be my moral support. I'm also giving you a potential lifeline. But don't worry, I'll toy with Julian's secrets when you're done," she said with a wink, her grin shining like sunlight piercing through winter clouds. Fueled by the thrill in the air, passion ignited in my chest. I turned to Julian, the yearning coiling even closer. "Okay, deal. But if you break it, this will sting more than any betrayal." "Then let's make sure that never happens," he whispered, his voice a rich caress against my skin as he leaned in, the space closing between us punctuated by an undercurrent of anticipation. The tension snapped like a taut string. Our lips met with clarity, the kiss igniting feelings we had tethered for too long beneath the chilly humor and unyielding banter. As the ice outside melted under the fiery heat of our intrusion, I gazed into Julian's eyes and felt the tempest of unspoken desires, balmy and stormy at once. Fiona, ever the mischief maker, had turned away, but the echo of her laughter lingered in the air. The kiss deepened, brushing away doubts like the ebb between waves, and as our bodies intertwined, it was no longer about merely revealing secrets. It was about accepting a new kind of truth, a blazing vulnerability that lived in the heartbeat of our uncharted emotions. And just like that, the storm inside of us collided with the tempest outside, leaving everything else behind to simply melt into the moment. I'd risk it all, for this was not just a game. It was something far more thrilling and profound than ever before. In that swirl of passion, we navigated through the chaos, forever hopeful, daring to forge our path together in the midst of it all. "Tomorrow," I whispered, "we'll confront all the storms, won't we?" He nodded, pulling me closer. "Together, Zara. Always together." Chapter 61. In the Eye of the Storm. The ship creaked gently, its timbers groaning as the icy winds howled outside, rattling the portholes with a kind of unrelenting fury. The light flickered above me, dancing in the warm glow of my lantern and casting polished shadows across the wood-paneled cabin. A disheveled stack of research notes lay sprawled across the table, a chaotic testament to my relentless pursuit of knowledge, of the very thing that had brought me to this unforgiving stretch of ice. I brushed a hand through my hair, tucking a strand behind my ear before glancing toward the heavy curtains a little too firmly, waiting for the boom of thunder beyond the walls. The storm outside was more than just a manifestation of the weather. It echoed my own internal tempest. "Zara," Julian's voice sliced through the sharp whisper of the wind, a call that both soothed and unsettled. He appeared at the door, his silhouette rugged against the backlight. "You've got to see this." I stood, pushing back any flirtation with hesitation. Julian had a way of drawing me into his orbit, an enticing gravitational pull that confused my ambition with desire. "Are you sure?" "It's absolutely," he interrupted, a grin spreading over his features. "You'll want to appreciate the chaos outside. Trust me." Something warm unfurled inside me at the sight of him, an electric promise of adventure, perhaps even intimacy. A low rumble of thunder punctuated the air outside, beckoning me to abandon my apprehensions. I followed him to the outer deck, slipping on a jacket that was far too light for the elements at play, but his presence burned hotter than any cold could threaten. As soon as I stepped out, the wind howled fiercely, whipping my hair across my face, presenting an almost cartoonishly dramatic scene, like a tempestuous entry from a Gothic novel. Julian was standing at the ship's railing, his eyes alight with exhilaration. I reached for his arm for balance, my fingers brushing against his woolen sleeve, and he turned, his pupils dilating, almost as if surprised at the contact. The storm raged, but for a pulsating moment we were locked in an intensity that felt bigger than the natural world, two hearts flaring bravely against howling winds. "Look," he shouted, pointing toward the horizon. The gray clouds broadcasted a sudden explosion of vivid color, the kind that felt distant and unattainable, yet breathtakingly close. "That's a rare Antarctic phenomenon. Unbelievable, isn't it?" "Stunning," I muttered, torn between the awe of nature's elegance and the overwhelming charge of being so close to him. He glanced over, an amused sparkle in his eyes as he caught my breathless admiration. "Careful now," he teased, shifting closer so the worn fabric of his body brushed against mine, amplifying the electricity, creating a physical connection amid the storm. "You wouldn't want to get lost in the beauty of it all." "Is that a warning or an invitation?" I shot back, surprised at my audacity, but just as quickly I could feel heat creeping up my neck.